Hello, this is a video where I dunk on Synthetic Man because it's fun to dunk on Synthetic Man. No other reason. I don't have any other reason. I don't need one. I'm just another loser on the internet, just like him. But it's funny. It's fun to do this. Plus I get to be edgy in a way I can't be edgy on. If I'm dunking on someone anyone else, because I guess he can take it. Maybe that's what it is. He can't really take it, but he isn't even anywhere near as edgy as I am. I mean, this guy would literally fold into a fucking paper mache ball sack as I fucked his mom. He would literally have PTSD of fucking shock dreams every time he saw some white liquid of the fucking cum drooling from her mouth in front of his eyes as I fucked her in front of him. He would literally it would always it would literally anytime he saw liquid just dripping, he would always have uh memories of the exact angle and the way it felt to him as it dropped on his face from her mouth and stuff like that. I'm just saying, this guy would just be scarred forever. He would be forever fucking scarred. You know? Oh, but that's beside the point. I'll just say this. He's mad at Critical Drinker in this video, because Critical Drinker likes a video game he doesn't like, because Critical Drinker finished the game. For those who don't know, Synthetic Man can't beat this game. He is incapable of beating this game, and that's why he hates it. I mean, is there any thing else that needs to be said?
This is just
He can't beat Black Myth Wukong, and he can't beat God of War Ragnarok.
lying. You're just fucking lying.
He's lying about what? That the game has good character development and stuff. Well, if you only play for the first 2-3 hours, yeah, you're actually right. But here's the thing: when a $60 game comes out, and then you and then you play all of it, that slow build up in the first 3 to 5 hours starts to pay off. That's the point of playing a full product, right? Now, no, you don't have to, right? You can review it without, but you can, what it really comes down to is if you need to get play 10 to 12 hours for it to get good. That's not a good defense, right? It's more of, if you do it, if you can last long enough, you find the rest of it fun enough to last that long, it does get amazing at that point. It's sort of how everyone's Warframe gets good 100 hours in. It does. It gets phenomenal 100 hours in. But how many people even last two, right? Once you get past that threshold, you are fucking engaged with the story finally. But it takes 100 hours of just bullshit missions and all that. And if the combat isn't engaging enough for you to carry on with the shitty story before it gets good, you won't care, right? Now, the combat is great. It's phenomenal. But that's the only thing selling it. It was the combat and the music, right? So once you get past the 100-hour mark, game's great. It takes a long time to get there, right? So it's not a good defense. It's more if you know kind of thing. It's really what it comes down to with that kind of stuff.
With the section.
He's also mad that Critical Drinker reviewed Glass Onion and didn't talk about another reason why it was stupid, but this time used a race cabal bullshit as to why it was stupid, and then tried to say he's a government psyop against people like him. It's very hilarious. I know he's a schizophrenic retard, but he even admits that he's a schizophrenic retard. He doesn't use the retard part about it, but yeah, if the word retard is a suffix for every form of schizophrenia, because it's a mental disorder. That's what schizophrenia is. I don't know if you know. And then like he's trying to say it's psychos, psychopaths. Like I think he said psychos, which it could mean psychopath, but it could also mean psychosis, right? Which is what schizophrenia is. It's kind of the funny thing, right? Psychopathy is like is basically you're a narcissistic asshole, and then like schizophrenia is you're a psychopathic asshole. Wait, no, it's psychopath versus psychotic, right? So Synthetic Man is psychotic, and he's mad that Critical Drinker is psychopathic, right? That's really what schizophrenic versus a psychopathic is. It's psychotic versus versus narcissistic, right? Because schizophrenia is just a form of psychosis, and psychopathy is a form of narcissism, right? And like the forms of narcissism are all basically the same. So a sociopath and a psychopath are basically the same like disorder. Like they aren't really defined too much. Like people can't really differentiate them well enough for them to be their own things. So it's just you're diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, not anything else, right? And he would be diagnosed with a psychopathy or schizophrenia, right? Which they do have different diagnoses, but I don't really see the point in that either. Really, it's just like how extreme are your delusions. But like schizophrenics who, is when you see things and hear things that aren't there, right? Psychopathy is when you do that, but like, you can still tell that they're fake. Like that's the only difference, really. Like bipolarism is one of the where you can tell it's fake, but you might like still see like or hear things that aren't there, right? Yeah, so yeah, you know what psychosis is. It's like you hear and see things that other people can't. Yeah, that's what schizophrenia is. That's what he has. He admitted it. So there we go. It's just, like that's why whenever you see Synthetic Man attack things that aren't there, that's why he sees things that aren't there.
And
He sees things you can't see, like they just aren't there for you to see.
That gradually brings about a clearer.
That's why he's like, oh, I'm just asking questions about the agenda that doesn't exist. Well, now you know why.
Understanding and the fascinating
like the
exploration
agenda really
of the
is an
nature of fate
individual
and destiny,
project thing.
whether events
like,
really are.
Like a good way to say it, right? The only communist agenda would be to say that there's a communist agenda, because it would give you like the ultimate ability to put communism in the forefront of America. Because if you deny there's a communist agenda, what do you have, right? Well, you can be a communist, but then you can't get communism because you won't have left and right wing infighting against each other in America to give you that rise of power you want, right? But if you deny it, right? But like, if you deny it, what you can do is basically like, well, I mean, if you accept it, what you can basically do is like basically other one half of America against the other, and you can keep doing that over and over and over again until eventually like half of America is just perpetually against itself, so it cripples its own economy, doesn't trust its own government infrastructure, and starts trusting foreign companies, i.e. communists, to do like all its manufacturing and jobs and all that, which just cripples America to the point of its own destruction. Like this is the Chinese communist agenda is what I'm talking about, by the way. That's why like the grifters have started simping for China, by the way, because like that's actually objectively, for those who are wondering why. But that being said, like this is just a dog shit take from Synthetic Man. The game's good. Like it's legitimately fun. Like yeah, the first few hours are kind of mid though, I will say. But like it's like that in everything except for like God of War 3. Anyway, like God of War 3 is the only one that starts out hype, to be fair.
No. Oh my
God of War 3 starts out with, of course, Poseidon. That's the fucking hypest shit ever, right?
God. No. This is literally just lies. This is I almost can't watch the rest of this, and not just because I'm drunk, but just like this is retarded. You're just saying things. They're not even true. Oh my god.
What
You
are
know
you
what?
lying
I have
about?
no problem with people saying my review's bad or whatever for like saying, oh, I stretched certain events of my retelling or I just didn't tell it favorably or something. This is literally the opposite, where you're giving the game every credit to the point where it's literally not true. There's nothing deep about this story whatsoever. It's a fucking Marvel movie. I I don't even know if I can make it to the point where he throws shade at me because this is so awful. But it doesn't matter because he has 1.5 million subs, and that's, at least a couple 100,000 dick suckers who are not going to, give any opposing opinion to the popular
Oh,
you.
that is true, but like, like that's he does have a lot of people who want to suck his dick. I mean, he does look good though. You can't really lie about that. Like, he does look more like a man than you. Like he's probably the only person on the anti side at all that really looks good. I mean, maybe Craig, but really like that's a bit right. Like, it's Stuttering Craig, Blabs, who isn't even really on it. She's just tied with Craig, and then you have and Craig isn't really 100% on it or off it either. Really, it's Stuttering Craig, it's Blabs, and it's Critical Drinker. That's basically all the good-looking people. People are like, what about Mel? Dog, if you think Melody Mac is hot, you need to actually like see someone who has more than 5 ounces of meat on her body and stat. Like, that is not good looking. Like, I want a healthy bitch, not a skinny bitch. You know what I mean? Like, give her like some meat, right? And also like her diet is unhealthy as well. Like, the way she eats, I bet you she smells like fucking ass perpetually, right? Like, she's constantly going to the hospital for dehydration, like, and all that, right? Like, she literally, even in her fan art, looks like a skeleton. Like, look, I'm just gonna say this. Look, the Corpse Bride is not hot. She might be cute, but she's not hot. You don't want to fuck the chick from you don't want to fuck the chick from Nightmare Before Christmas, right? You might like her. She's not really ugly in that sense, but she's not fuck material, right? She's not hot. You know, it's more like she's not ugly, but like I ain't gonna hit it, right? Um, and that's really like what it is with like Melanie Mac. Like, Blabs, like people's like might say she's plain, but yeah, plain is like better than fucking Corpse, right? Like, I feel like if I had sex with Melanie Mac, right, I would feel like I'm a necrophiliac, right? You know what I mean? Like, I would feel guilty of necrophilia. Like, if someone said, like, did I fuck a corpse and accused me of that, I'd be like, guilty, right? Like, like that's Melanie Mac. Like, she looks like a fucking twig and a skeleton. That's all she is. To me, like, that bitch too skinny. You know what I mean? Like, well, like, I fear like if she takes off her shirt and pants, I'll start seeing like each individual rib and like the outline of her spine in the back, and then like her fucking like entire pelvis like shape, right? Not just the bony landmarks, not just like the scapula and clavicle and seventh cervical vertebra, elbows, ankles, knees, and elbow and wrists, right? And like the outer part of the hips, and like that, and like the bottom of um like the what's that called, the chest bone that's not the rib cage, it's the thing in between them. What's that fucking thing? It's not the spine. It's like there's a bone in between the ribs themselves on the front. um I think it's called the gladiolus. is like the part, but like it's one bone, I believe, right? But like this the last shape is called the gladiolus. Sternum, right? Yeah, the sternum. So you have the sternum, the clavicle, the acromion process of the scapula, which is the little spine part, by the way. Like that's what like the outer spine part is that the spine of the seventh cervical vertebra. That's like the bottom of your neck, basically, and the outer parts of your hips, and then your joints, like your knees, your little finger joints, and your wrist and your ankles. And that's sort of like all you should see, right? I bet I'd see like her individual ribs and like all her spine and shit. Like, like I have, like she fucking frightens me with how ugly she looks. Not gonna lie, like that bitch ain't like look, very dark is good looking, right? Like okay, I miss very dark, right? But and Safi, right? Okay, yeah, okay. Outside of Melody Mac, all the girl guests that are regulars on side scrollers are pretty good looking, right? It's really just Melody Mac looks ugly, but like yeah, like, I guess you could say Blabs is more plain, but like I'd rather like Blabs is plain. Blabs is cute though, right? Like Blabs doesn't look like a corpse. She looks like just a girl, right? Like just like some woman, right? Like just any average Joe woman. Like she's more like she's like an 8 or a 9, right? Like she's good looking. She takes care of herself. She's not amazing, but like I don't need amazing, right? You know what I mean? Like but like obviously I'm not like talking about like that. What I mean is like if we're going on like good looking people, it's really Blabs, Safi, oh no, it's Alex, although he's kind of like not really on either side. Same with Craig, right? And then it's the Critical Drinker and Very Dark. And that's basically it, right? Like everyone else looks like shit. Oh wait, no. There's that one singer dude. Forgot about him. Like that. Like the dude who does all like he basically like does all like the male singer covers female stuff. Covers, but like that guy is like fucking a Chad too. To be fair, like. But there's not that many, right? And like looking good isn't that like a bad thing. But if you're gonna like criticize a character or a person on their looks, you gotta look good. Like that's the thing. Like you gotta be a 7 to criticize an 8. I mean a 6, right? You can't be a 4 and criticize a 7, right? Like if you're a 4, you objectively can't criticize a 7. You can recognize that they're a 7, but you can't criticize them because you're worse, right? It's sort of like if someone needs to do push-ups and sit-ups and squats and a 10-kilometer run every day to get stronger, but you can't even do like a fucking like finger like a finger like flap or whatever, a finger curl, right? Without like feeling you're breaking your bones, then you need to do it first, right? Don't criticize people for like personal affects on things you can't do. Like if it's their creative like potential, like a movie or game or whatever, you can. But you obviously still will have more like knowledge if you've actually made your own stuff, though. Like making a game or an art piece gives you a lot more information on like how to make a good game or art piece. Like obviously, like objectively it does, right? If you know how to make music, you obviously are better at criticizing music, but you don't have to, right? Like the point of entertainment media and entertainment media criticism is to entertain you ultimately. Like the point of entertainment criticism is to like warn you about like things that you won't enjoy if you like agree with that person generally. This is why I like don't like the idea of ideological critics, because like it's a dumb fucking like retarded thing. Like you're criticizing entertainment media for its politics is like a dumb fucking move. You criticize something based off of how fun it and entertaining it is, not how like anything else, right? Like if you criticize it for bullshit outside of the entertainment reasons, like you just you aren't criticizing the media then, right? And so therefore it's not really like there's no reason to bring up the media, right? Like if you criticize like what I say is if you criticize like Red Dawn for being anti-communist propaganda, right? Because it's anti-communist propaganda, or vice versa. The film version of Starship Troopers for being anti-fascist and anti-American military-industrial complex criticism. Well, then, like like you're criticizing it for that rather than rather than what's in the movie. Like it's stupid. Now, to be fair, with Starship Troopers, the book was initially pro American industrial complex, but remember, like the reason for that is actually because if you actually remember, the Americans were the good guys in the 40s when the book was written. America was the bad guys when Starship Troopers was filmed, though. Like that's why like that exists, right? That's why that dichotomy exists because they're both about the American industrial complex, military industrial complex, but like when they're the good guys, you don't want to criticize them, right? But when they're the bad guys objectively in the war, you want to like. So that's really what it came down to. People felt a lot worse about the American military in the 80s, so they were anti-military American military in the 80s. That's all that really came down to. It's sort of like how like in the early 2000s, every fucking movie involving a war was against Muslims pretty much, right? It was like all against Muslim terrorists. And then like we eventually like were like towards the mid 2010s, like that's kind of like cringe, right? And it's really just because like we already won the war by 2011. Like everything we went there for was gone. We didn't even need to go to the first war, right? So like at that point we're like, why the fuck are we fighting these wars again, right? Like that's why like you ended up getting like a counter resurgence on those films where like you started having like good Middle Eastern guys like fighting like, and it was literally objectively because of how our military was doing and perceived at the time. Like, cause like media is ultimately it's not propaganda. It's a product of the environment, right? So, like a good way to say it, right? The very religious societies produce very religious artwork, right? So, like, like you look at like the best like art of the Renaissance era, right? You had the Pope pay like what would be the equivalent of millions of dollars for a single painting in a church. It was the Sistine Chapel, and not just the Sistine Chapel, because he paid individual paintings for what would be millions of dollars. So Creation de Adam, right, is like one individual painting on the Sistine Chapel. It's the most famous one, but there's plenty of others. All of them are like commissioned to like by the Pope to Michelangelo and his crew, because he had a crew. Obviously, he didn't just do all of that himself. But he did do a lot of it. Like it's sort of like how like in manga, like there's the lead artist, the mangaka, but then there's like different artists involved in the project as well, right? Like, and that's kind of like what it was like for him. Like he's the main guy, he does most of the work, but like these other guys, like provide like little bits of services to like make sure the project doesn't take 2 decades. Is really what that is about. For those who are wondering. It's basically just to make it take less time. Like probably like keeping the paint like wet and the sculpts like like from like getting like cracked or something. Like that's most of it is maintaining, but there's other things too. Now in modern day, it's a little less like all of the work, but back then that was basically a lot of work that needed to be done, so that like they didn't have to restart ever as well. That's the thing. Those paintings took a while, and they had to like keep like being like preserved in that state before if he continued, and they weren't like prepared for him to continue, he would like actually fuck it up, right? Because the mediums that they used, you had a very small margin of window after you stop working on it to work on it again. And like not fuck it up. That's why like the works were great, but there were so few of them. Like you don't see like too many. Like every artist starts off like shitty, right? But you don't see like all the shitty stuff from them because no one preserved them. But also you don't see like the mid tier artists who were still pretty good, just not as good as them because they didn't exist. And the reason they didn't exist isn't because no one would have aspired to. It's because back then like they paid a few artists to make masterpieces because it was like literally the guy who like spoke to God, the fucking popes and the kings were paying for these, right? That's why like that's why like the art was so good, even though it was so few, was because you got paid basically a lifetime of money for it. Is a good way to say it, right? Like when you're paid well enough, you do good, you do better, right? That's how it works. Like that's why like the Dennis Prager "Art is Dead" video is like the most retarded thing ever. Like, no, Dennis. The reason modern art sucks is because we pay for it. Like he's not talking about like in games like these, obviously either. He's talking about like paintings that are in museums, and the reason why is because that's what people are paying for. Like if they paid for like Ralph Rossetti to do sculpts the quality he does in this game for them, they would get that. But they don't. They don't want like good art in the museums anymore, so they don't have them. That's why you don't have them in your museums, Dennis Prager, because they're not buying that good art, right? Magic the Gathering has literally thousands of times better art, like just in like and Yu-Gi-Oh too, right? Like Yu-Gi-Oh, a Yu-Gi-Oh deck has more good art than a modern art museum. Just any Yu-Gi-Oh deck will have better card art than those fucking things. But the reason why is because that's what the museums are paying for. You know, if they paid for Yu-Gi-Oh cards, they would get like better art, right? But they don't. If they paid for Magic the Gathering cards, they get better art. Actually, I'd say Magic the Gathering is way better than Yu-Gi-Oh for the art. But like, I'm not dissing like the Yu-Gi-Oh artists either. By the way, I know like rest in peace. But like I'm like comparatively, you know, but like they're different styles. But like one takes more effort, right? And the one for Magic the Gathering, until they started using AI, obviously. I'm not gonna get into that. I'm talking about like old Magic the Gathering, obviously. But like Magic the Gathering always had better art than Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's not really like it matters.
YouTuber. Whoa there, Critical's a writer, bro. Yeah, writer of discount Tom Clancy novels, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, discount Tom Clancy novels though are kind of good. Like Tom Clancy is based, so a weaker version of god tier writing is good, right? Like you know, like it could be bad, but it could also just be good. It's sort of like how like the prequels were good, but like the original was god tier, so everyone compared it to the like if you compare the prequels as their own movies rather than like standalone movies, like only two sucks really. But if you compare them to like the original trilogy and also like the way the plot was leading up to that, it sucks, right? The whole thing sucks. Really, like people like to simp. No, like it really ruins like a lot of the lore about Darth Vader in those prequels. But it doesn't matter in the individual like movies, except for two sucks regardless, right? Also, they had way more meme potential. To be fair, like a lot of the reason people like the prequels is just because how memeable they are. But really, most of that's the first and the third movie as well. The second movie's just kind of bland, right? In like every regard. But like I guess what it is, the second movie's pretty forgettable. So people forget. Like I think like people meld the first and third movie together and think that that's the second movie, but that's not really the case. The second movie is just absolutely dog shit. And they'd be like, "Wait, you like the first one more than the second one?" Yeah, I prefer racist stereotypes and like dumbass fucking jokes over fucking nothing, right? Like Count Dooku for a couple minutes towards the end is not gonna save a fucking shitty film, right? Like, oh, they introduce Jango Fett, but he's also killed in the same movie. Boo-hoo, right? Like, there's cool moments in it, but there's nowhere near as many cool moments as in 3 or 1, and nowhere near as many funny, memeable moments as in 3 or 1, right? Like narratively, it might be the best, but like they're all like kind of like mid narratively, and like the action and like music and all that is like in the meme potential, like where most of it is, and like just 2 just is the weakest for that. It's not bad, it's just the weakest, right? But like I think like because of that, like it's definitely like kind of horrible. It's definitely horrible compared to like the original trilogy.
He just writes shitty war fiction. I mean, I haven't read it, but the point is he's writing like discount Tom Clancy novels as if that's like some kind of accomplishment in this day.
I mean, yeah, I mean it's better than you have written, right? Like this is the thing, like everyone's like, um like every like the person wrote like something and it's not great. So, like this is the thing, like I don't care that when I say Mark Curtin is a scammer, I'm not saying because his game looks bad. I'm saying because he's not making the game, right? Like give us a like effort on the project. I don't care if it looks bad. Give us some fucking like here's the thing, right? He wants to act like he doesn't care if people shit on him, but he objectively does, because if he didn't, he would show everything. And like there would be a lot of progress shots. His audience would be happier. He'd also make way more money. So like he's caring more about like his vision to fucking morons on Twitter than actually making a good like his game and his fans happy. And that's literally like what's killing his his like career for me, right? Like he's spending too much time pleasing people on Twitter than anything else. Like they're Twitter freaks, right? Like anyone who takes Twitter seriously, left or right, is a Twitter freak. That's the definition of Twitter freak. It's not trans Twitter user. It's person who uses Twitter all day and thinks it's a real place. Mark Kern is a Twitter freak, right? Like Troon is a trans slur. Twitter freak is a Twitter user slur that can refer to anyone who uses it too much, right? And like it can refer to that, like it often does, but it's not the only crowd it refers to. Whereas Troon is just trans, right? And I'm fine with like slurs, like I don't fucking care. Like, look, faggot, I use racial slurs, I'll use trans slurs, I'll use like gay slurs, I'll use all of them. But at the end of the day, I feel like what matters is like what your intent behind it is, right? Like a slur is just a word, right? The point of a reason why like the slurs were so bad is they dehumanize people. Like right, like the N word isn't bad because just saying that group of vowels and consonants is somehow bad, right? It's bad because it was used to dehumanize people who didn't even have a voice in the first place. Like black people back then didn't have the ability to say no, right? They had to take it anyway. So like it's a little different than like calling like me like a slur. Like I'm like I can whoop your ass, like I can whoop your ass, motherfucker, if we in like one on one, right? So like calling me something like insulting, it's like it doesn't hit as hard as like calling someone who is literally legally someone else's property, and if they disobey you, they could die. Like those are 2 completely different extremes. Like comparing slaves to fucking like people in the ghetto, or like a fucking like rural area trans person is just fucking ridiculous. It's fucking retarded.
Day and age. Fucking like Jeremy from Achievement Hunter has written and published a book as if that's a fucking as if that means anything.
Yeah, I mean, he did it. He makes money off of it, right?
So don't even go there. Don't even fucking go there. We'll see how much more
Like
I
it's
can.
not like that's the thing, right? You could publish a book. Yeah, you could. You could write and publish a book, but you haven't, right? Really all like a book really needs is effort, and it doesn't even take that much, and the willingness to have people think your work is dog shit. That's all it takes. But like you might be like, wait, that's all it takes? Yeah, that's all it takes. Just put words on paper and be willing to have people call it dog shit. But those two things are like it's not a lot physically. It's a lot mentally though to a lot of people.
Tolerate of this.
Like I've made video games before. I've never published a video game though. Right? I've made hundreds of video games you have never seen or heard of. I have never once published a single one. So you like it's like obviously they're like little shitty like tower defense clones and like a little pick and sticks, which is basically like Snake, but you can't lose and stuff like that, right? Like I've made a ton of games, some from tutorials directly, some like adapting them into like my own like little like extended projects and stuff like that. But I've never published any of these, so you won't know any of that, right? But I made hundreds of games. They just all suck. So I didn't publish any. But publishing does take a little bit of balls, right? Like it's now you got like, well, now people have a stake and they might hate you or not, right, for what you did. Like, this is why like I respect the hell out of Eric July, even though I disagree with him a lot, is because he made a comic, right? The comic might suck. I don't fucking care. I think it does suck, right? Because I think like what it's trying to do is something I didn't like in the first fucking place. Like the mid tier comics from the 80s, like not the like they're not doing like the comics that everyone loved from the 80s, just like the average Joe comic from the 80s. Like those fucking suck just as much as the average Joe ones of today, just for different reasons. Like the average comics of old and the average comics of new were all just as shitty, just for different reasons. The ones that were like bangers, like it's you still have them today, right? And they were always like a minority. Like the Killing Jokes and the Dark Knight Returns and the Death in the Family are just like were just as rare back then as like the Immortal Hulks and the fucking like what Infinite Crisis, right? Not Crisis of Infinite Final Crisis, that's what it was. Yeah, the Final Crisis is the Immortal Hulks and the what is it, like the last one? Shit, I think. I know I can think of three. Like there was one where like it was like I just don't know the names of some of these comics because I didn't like I didn't like buy them individually all the time. But like there's one where like it involved like Hulk and Thor duking it out, but like there was like a Hulk version of Thor, like it was great. I forget what that comic was called. But like man, rest in peace, comic historian, because you were like that was like I think one of the last comics he finished. Man, rest in peace, my guy. But like that's kind of like the thing, right?
These fucking lies
Are predetermined, or whether our belief
guy,
in them is what makes
like
them
he's
real.
mad that
But I think
Critical Drinker did something with his life and has a legacy to look for. This is why I don't like Mark Kern. He doesn't have that, right? He's whining about like how like Mark Kern is like literally like doing the shit I hate white supremacists for, except he's still the same person he's like simping over. Like you know how like white supremacists will always simp for like Leonardo da Vinci and Sir Isaac Newton, even though Sir Isaac Newton objectively didn't have kids, so they aren't related to him at all, genetically at all, because basic biology, motherfuckers. But like yeah, they had good achievements, and they might have shared some traits with your race. Also, first off, like it's always like someone who isn't Italian simping for the Italian guy, right? Isn't that always kind of funny, right? Like I don't know if you know this, but like there's more than one race of white person, just like there's more than one race of black people and more than one race of like Asian people, right? Like Japanese and Indians and Chinese and South Koreans and North Koreans even are not the same people, right? Nigerians and people in the ghetto of America and people in the south of America and people like in like Creole Louisiana type people, right? And all that are not the same people. Mexicans and Guatemalans and Brazilians are not the same people, right? And like, but we act like Europe was always like, or ever really a homogenous unit. It never was. Like Hitler was literally killing Polish, Romani, and other fucking white people, right? Like Hitler did not want white people to be like he wasn't caring for the Anglo-Saxons or anything. Like he was caring for specifically the Nordics. That was it. If you weren't Nordic, you were dying. And even then, if you weren't Nordic and you were, or if you were Nordic and you were siding against him, you were dying. The idea of Hitler like actually cared about like Hitler wasn't a white supremacist; he was a German supremacist. Like he was also a white supremacist, but like specifically a German supremacist, right? He wanted Germans to be on top of the world, and he made like a lot of military and like domestic efforts in both to do that, right? He didn't just genocide Jewish people; he genocided all people, right? It's just Jewish people were like the largest group because of like certain parts of the reason why he did it. But like he genocided every fucking body. Like he would have genocided fucking Britain too, like I mean like let's not pretend he wasn't like an empirical conquistador too,
I think it's
Okay,
not
okay.
safe.
I'm only gonna address
That's
this.
literally what the Reich part of Third Reich means. Empire, he's conquering and either enslaving or killing all of another country and then adding that land to its own. That's what imperialism is.
This one more time. The game flat out tells you that fate is a lie. That is not complex. That is not deep. That does not leave questions for the viewer. There's no death of the author component to that. The game tells you literally what it means. That is not deep or interesting. What the fuck?
I mean, it doesn't though. Like, it objectively doesn't. It did, like, are you talking about, like, in God of War 2? Right? Like, that's when that happened, right? When they literally killed the Sisters of Fate. No, they don't tell you that Fate is a lie in this game. In fact, the entire point is, like, proving that the Fates are true. It's just that Odin and a few others misread them. Like everything that the Fates say happens. How it like there's no way you can say Fates are proven to be untrue when everything the Fates said would happen happens. Like where did like that's literally part 2 that happens, and it really that's only because like the Sisters of Fate, the people who literally write Fate, are killed as they are writing Kratos' death. Like that's where that happens, my guy. Like, I mean, you could say Kratos is still like that, but like Kratos' entire like thing is that he is like the god of hope who defies fate, right? Like in the end of 3, they showed like he isn't war, he is hope, right? Like that's literally the end of 3, like before he tries to kill himself. So like he's the god of hope, right? So like Ares was the god of war. He took his title, but he's not really the god of war. He's the god of hope. So like he defies fate because that's the thing hope is about, right? You like holding on to something when there's nothing physically tangible there is literally what hope is, right? And he is like the incarnation of that, right? So he is like hope comes from Kratos, right? Not Kratos like gets hope powers. He is hope, right? As in like Ares hope war doesn't shoot out of Ares' hands. He is war, right? Like that's kind of like what Greek gods like kind of are, words. The same with like Nordic gods, right? Their concepts, like their abstract concepts, actualized as a person. Like it's literally like they are like Phobos is propaganda and fear in a person, right? And that's what Phobos is. He's hysterics, panic in a person. Also, it's kind of funny that people like say because like phobos means fear, that they forget that phobos also means like propaganda and panic or hysteria. That well, hysteria was like the brother of phobos, right? About like hysteria and phobos are like always together, and like phobos is like the panic, which is like the reaction to the hysteria, which is like the propaganda, right? So like whenever people are like, I'm not transphobic because I don't fear trans people, I just see pattern, like, then you're saying the other definition of phobia. And like so yeah, that's why it's used. Well, like conservatives act like there's only one definition of the word when literally the god like meant two different things, and like the panic was the main thing. Like it means like international fear. Like where in the Greek gods was that a thing? And they're like, well, it was in English. Like the English language didn't invent the word; we borrowed it. It's a suffix, and it means what it meant in Greece, right? Like panic is usually international fear, but it's not always, right? But it's always like a reaction to something in a mass, right? Mass reaction to something, and also like there's also of course like the psychology of all negative and positive emotions. Literally, there's only two parts of your brain. So anger, disgust, hatred, just aversion in general is all just part of fear, right? Because fear is not wanting something bad to happen. So like, and like all of negative emotions are just you think something bad will happen if you let this thing happen, right? That's ultimately what emotions are, right? Is panic is fear response to fear. I mean, is fear as a response to evolutionary and environmental pain. The evolutionary isn't like things like just in your DNA to like fear, and then environmental is like like as you grow up, right? And then it's the same thing like with like positives is like the reward system. So like pleasure, right, is the response of a reward, and then fear is a response of punishment. You don't want punishment, so you avoid the things that cause punishment, and you want reward, so you do things that give reward, right? That's how
God
the
of
brain
War
works.
Ragnarok is a pretty fucking interesting story.
No,
At
it
the end of the
isn't.
day, that's how every brain works. Like we all have different brains, but they all like work on the same like kind of layers. But like like because there's so many people, there's just too many variables for like us to have like an actual like homogenous society that actually agrees with each other or anything like that. Like we know how the brain works, it's pretty simple. But like the just like it's pretty simple, but like it's also complex in that there's no control variables to either that like anything environmental. So outside of pure genetics, you're not really gonna have any control. Like that's why like anyone who like wants to control populations has to kill everyone else. Right? Like that's really what it comes down to. If there was actually a way to do like control all the variables without doing that, people would probably do that instead, but they can't.
More interesting characters.
Nope.
I mean,
Nope.
it's kind of
Nope.
amazing to think that we started off with this.
Wretched beast! I know who it is you serve. Return to your master. Tell the God of War I am his no longer.
And ultimately ended up with this.
Loki will go.
Okay. Okay, he's a retard. You didn't play the original games. Kratos literally kills himself in the beginning of the game. That is more emotional depth than any of the games after that.
Beginning, that's the end of the last game, not the beginning. He gets killed for like a crime of killing his own family in the first game. What?
He was tortured so much by killing his own family that he kills himself. That is, oh my god.
I mean, yeah, it kind of happens again, you know, like that's the end of the series too, right? Like yeah, he's always a deep character. The problem with like God of War original trilogy really is he's the only deep character. It's not that he's deep, not deep. It's that everyone else is kind of shallow, except for Zeus, uh, and kind of Athena. Who else has depth there for like more than one, like one or two scenes of the series? Just those two guys in Kratos, right?
Oh my
Like the
god.
rest, it's like it's implied depth, but not actual depth. You know what I mean? Like it's implied based off of like how Kratos is acting, and how they're treated amongst the cast, but otherwise, no.
This is, he didn't play them. You didn't just say you didn't play them. It's okay. Like you can just say you didn't play them. Like you don't have to pretend. What a fucking hack. You know, and yeah. Oh, I'm so within an inch. I'm so close to saying my favorite word, the F slur, because that's what he is. He's absolutely just being
Well, I mean, you're a faggot. We get it. You like saying faggot because you're a faggot. You like taking up the ass. We get it. I'm just saying.
like, you know, monkeypox ridden, AIDS ridden, bowel parasite spreading, you know, bend over for corporations, you know, person. I don't
I
think.
mean, okay. I mean, you have the monkeypox. You have the hepatitis. You have the AIDS. You have you're a cancer to the universe. You know, you will yiff in hell for a fag, synthetic man. I'm just saying.
Think I can make it through this. This is way worse than the Horizon Forbidden West video because it's just lies. It's just lies. This is what I'm telling you. This is what I'm telling you. If a single person watching this stream right now still believes that Drinker is anti-woke, anti-SCW, any of that, the message. This game is made by people who love the message. I showed that at the Game Awards. I've looked, fucking Anthony Birch wrote for this shit, who's an open cuckold. Like, fucking...
Are you getting to the point where you find out that no one actually gives a shit and that anyone who pretends to is just making fun of you after a while, and you're just a big massive lolcow that everyone makes fun of because you're just a fucking dweeb that is not successful at all? Are we getting to that point yet, Synthetic Man? You know, like, are we getting to the point where everyone who exists, even your own audience, the majority of your fan base, thinks you're a fucking moronic loser who is just a fucking gooner for life? An internet lefty who thinks like saying vaguely right-wing things is edgy as fuck, but that doesn't actually get involved in anything meaningfully political at all, because he's just such a fucking doomer coomer brained loser that he can't actually fathom doing anything productive in his life, who still lives with his mother, like, and has her cook tendies every day. Like, look, if you live with your mother, that's fine. If you're a doomer, that's fine. But, like, all of these combine into, like, a pretty shitty, like, existence. And, like, you're mad, but, like, you're mad at yourself, really, right? Like, you're literally mad that Critical Drinker has a book and you don't. You know why? Because he wrote one, right? Like, this is the thing, like, Shadowversity wrote a bunch of dog shit books, right? Because he used AI. And the AI doesn't really produce anything useful. But hey, you can write dog shit. If you write enough dog shit, you get better and you eventually stop writing dog shit. Now, to be fair, he's not writing it all, so he's not going to actually do that. He's not going to improve, so it's always going to be dog shit. No one will buy his shitty books. Critical Drinker, however, doesn't use AI, so he's getting better as he writes, right? That's how it works, You live with your failures so you can continue to get better and drive yourself forward and continue to improve, right? That's the point of writing, right? Is the more you do it, the better you get, right? And so, like, people don't care that a person's a cuck. People, like, this is why, like, I feel like the Ghost of Yote thing is a grift, right? Assassin's Creed Shadows, I don't think it's a grift. Like, it looks legitimately like shit. But Ghost of Yote is a grift because, like, first off, the game looks just as good as the last game. And like we are like the original star also hated Trump. So like we're mad that you're mad that she blocked you for bitching about nonsense all day. And that she hates Trump. Who the fuck cares? Boo fucking who? A Japanese woman hates an American politician. Boo fucking who, right? Like, the Japanese man also hated the politician. Does that mean like Ghost of Tsushima was bad? Right? Like people are acting like that was ever like a legit argument somehow, I guess, right? It's not, it never was, and it never will be. People don't like political people, and they don't like fucking edgelords all up in their face in their arguments all day, right? That's really what it comes down to. They blocked you because they think you're a fucking toxic piece of shit. Not because you're conservative, but because you're a fucking whiny bitch, right? That's why, like, I don't really like the idea of, oh, this person's mass blocking. Like, yeah, they're mass blocking because you're a whiny fucking loser, right? Stop being one and they won't block you, right? That's how it works. Like, if you're like, oh, like, I got blocked, I'm so, like, happy. Like, dude, you're a fucking loser. Like, get a life. Like, if people mass block you, or like if the people mass block a group based off like tags and associations or whatever, that's normal. That's called healthy. Like that's called like you see this like thing in your brain called a neuron and you feel it dying one by one, and then you want them to revive, so you do like block scripts, which what they do is they take those dead neurons and they replace them with live neurons, and your brain feels healthier within a few hours, right? Like, objectively, people who use block scripts on Twitter, especially nowadays, but even before, really, Twitter was never really this amazing place for lefties either, or righties. It was always a shitty cesspool. If you wanted to do anything worthwhile, what it really comes down to is people are like, oh, like because they used to control Twitter, but controlling Twitter is like controlling like a turd sandwich, right? Like you control like the shitty center of this disgusting abomination, right? Like how about you kind of just ignore the fact that you're on a piece of shit, and just wait it out, like, because you have to, and like it's the best way to make money. Those are the base people, right? The people who don't do that are fucking cringe, right? Anyone who treats it like it's not just shit mountain is a fucking piece of shit. Like, cause they're the ones who like think, oh, I'm the king of shit mountain is like a good like thing to say. If you have a lot of followers to the point where your blue check mark was legacy, and you're like and you get them not because of an outside source, but purely from Twitter, you are a degenerate fucking scumbag, retard, fart fucking face, who deserves to have like the shit that they produce, fed to them directly from their own anus, right? As like a fucking Ouroboros human centipede thing, where like they will just perpetually eat their own asshole till the end of days, and they will literally like have their body decay and rot from the inside out because they're doing nothing but eating their own fecal matter, right? That's what people who think they're the king of Twitter should actually like do, because that'll actually simulate how that feels really to anyone who has a healthy brain. That's how you look like to normal people. Just saying, any normal man will look at the king of Twitter and see the Ouroboros human centipede. Like, you're like, I am the king of Twitter, eating my own feces to keep me tame, right? To keep me shamed, right? Like that's really what it is. You are the bird of Twitter. Right, there you go. I am the bird of Twitter, eating my own shit to keep me fed. Right? Like that's really what it comes down to. Like, being the king of Twitter is the fucking worst thing ever.
I'm losing it. I can't take this anymore. If there's I hate lies. It's just, that is just one of those things that's inherent to being a schizo, is you hate the deception. The obvious fucking deception. This is his second channel, which has 320,000. Look.
Like, What deception? Like the entire point of schizophrenia, actually, which you do clearly suffer from, by the way. You probably need to get that checked out. Maybe take some meds, like take some like reality like scene pills, but like is that you see and hear things that aren't there. That's what schizophrenia is, Synthetic Man. Like you know that, right? Like schizophrenia is when you see things and hear things that aren't there.
Look at how many subs his main channel has. He's like 1.5 million. Well, yeah, 1.59 million subs. You think that is against the wokeness? You think someone would get...
Okay, yeah, like no one really cares about wokeness. So here's what it really comes down to. I'm just gonna explain the culture war to this fucking loser because he believes in it still. The problem with the culture war isn't just that it's fake. It's that it's that it mentally degrades you until you're like a fucking degenerate, unhappy, perpetually sad douchebag who no one wants to fuck or hang out with, who will forever be alone for the rest of their lives, and when their mother dies, they will literally die with her because they have nowhere else to go. Right? You know, like that's the problem with believing in the culture war. Now, not everyone who doesn't believe in the culture war will necessarily not be like that. But if you believe in the culture war, that's how your life will go, right? So just stop. Like immediately, it'll feel healthier. Your brain cells will start to like stop being schizo and start being normal, right? But ultimately, here's the other thing, right? The other thing that like is like why you shouldn't believe in the culture war is because it prevents you from enjoying things that are legitimately amazing purely because purely because actually let me look at these subs. I kind of like I can't even see the fucking subs because it's so fucking low res. Okay, we sticks. It looks like some like lefties on there too. I'm not gonna lie. Like 6 is probably like the only righty on there. It looks like I don't fucking know. Doesn't matter. Anyway, my point is like no one really legitimately cares. The point is YouTube is there for entertainment, right? Critical Drinker is entertaining. Like I'm not gonna pretend my content is better than his, right? Outside of like haha, you know, like as a joke. Legitimately, Critical Drinker makes good content. He makes some banger videos, right? That's why people like him. People don't like me because my content is very like mean spirited and fucking like wild and crazy, and like it's just not for everyone, and like that's why, right? Like maybe it would be recommended by the algorithm more back in the day because like back then like you had more methods of discovery, people searched more and stuff like that rather than just looking at the front page and just clicking where it takes them, and then all these other things. But in reality, right, like all the inflammatoriness of my content makes it like unappealing to people. That's fine though, right? You're pretending like that's that's proof that people don't like your content. I'm saying that's proof that people do not like your content. People don't like your content. That's what it is, Synthetic Man. Your content sucks. Mine does too. We're not gonna like go like down the rabbit hole of one of us is better. You're probably better than mine, but not by much, unfortunately, but like still you're better than mine. I will give you that. But like I can improve. I don't think you can. That's really the problem here, right? Like you don't know how to improve from the point you're at. Like you would be better working at McDonald's. I mean, you get free nugs, you know, like you don't. I don't know if they do free nugs or like it's half nugs, but like you'd eat regardless. Some of your paycheck could go to nugs. You know what I mean? So like they pay you in like, you know, you could just do like 10% and I'll take 10% less and spend it all on nugs. But like legitimately, my guy, just get a job at McDonald's or something. Stop like doing this if you're gonna complain that you're failing, right? Like Critical Drinker isn't a failure of a YouTuber. He's a fantastic YouTuber, right? He's also a pretty decent writer. Like his books might fail. I don't fucking care. Here's the thing. Everyone's books and works all fail at the beginning, right? Everyone's does. You never start off a badass, right? You never start off a good artist. You never start off a good writer. You never start off a good painter. You never start off a good game designer. You never start off a good programmer. You build until you get there, right? And like that's the thing. Talent is really what talent is like the ability to hold skill after you stop like doing it for a while, right? Like eventually you'll like talent is like you'll like when you like have like a lot of like skill like applied and then like you start wanting to learn something else or whatever. Talent is like the ability to retain that knowledge like when you stop learning it. And then like skill is like the knowledge you learn, right? And like you eventually like have like if you can build talent and skill to the point where like you by training like doing that, right? Like if you constantly learn and repeatedly relearn new skills, you what you happens is you build talent, right? Because talent is like the endurance part. So like that's just like how that works, right? So that's why like the younger years are the best parts of learning because that's when you have the most time and energy to do that. But in reality, like you can always like learn a bunch of skills. It's just like you have more opportunities when you're like younger because you don't have a job or something. But he also doesn't have a job. So like you could literally improve your life by going on youtube.com/Proco, right? Like you can just go to Proco, right, and learn to draw and just keep drawing until like you're good, right? Just keep enjoying your drawing. Or like go to like CG Cookie, learn some Blender tutorials, right? Get some good Blender art going, Synthetic Man. Or like if you really want to, you could like start learning some Houdini node works, right? Maybe like sculpting and stuff just isn't for you. You want to like learn the mathematics behind it, like learn how to program your own art. Like just do some Houdini and Substance or Blender node like tutorials, and you'll enjoy that, right? And then you also have, of course, like like rigging and stuff can be cool, like for like animation and stuff. Maybe you want to like go to Virtus Hub for like some Unreal Engine tutorials and stuff like that, right? Or maybe like someone like Brackeys for Unity, right? And just keep like building up those skills until you actually have legitimately like had fun doing something and have made something worth playing. Or you could just sit on your ass all day. Like and complain about people who are more successful than you, right? Like I do that as a joke, but I also learn art and stuff all the time. Well, not really. I kind of took a break because I was homeless in and out, right? I have a better like excuse to like be a loser. I was in and out of homelessness. I was literally having like my fucking like skull smashed open a couple times. I have broken ribs like on the whole left half of my rib cage is fucking broken. And then or was I mean it healed by now, but you know what I mean, like fractured, not like broken. Sorry, like they had little like scratches on the bones, and like or like it was missing. They need to heal a little bit, right? I had like my whole fucking right side of my face was busted up, and I needed surgery for that. I have plates there now. I was raped repeatedly in my 20s, and I was also raped as a kid. So like I have like when I was like 6 years old to the point until I was 14, I was raped about 8 times by my stepfather. Then I had like some 50-year-old man like fucking like we get high and then like threatened like me repeatedly if I didn't like let him just fuck me. So yeah, I was raped in my 20s as well. And I was also like constantly beat the shit out of and all that. I am 30 now, and I am finally, not being abused that way. I'm also finally not being financially extorted too, because I had like my income was literally like Social Security for like, and I had a very bad disability where I had to have a payee. And really, I still have that disability. They're just like, fuck it now. Like, because I'm doing better managing my own money at paying my bills than people who were getting paid to manage my money were, right? Like, I've had people who literally were paid to manage my money with my money, right? So they were paid $1,000. Like, I get 800, they got 1,000 to manage my fucking money, right? and they didn't pay a single one of their bills when I was staying with them, right? So to keep this like long story short, they went homeless along with me while getting $1,000 to help me out, like with stuff, and they didn't even like give me more than like 100 or 200. When you think about it, you'd be like, wait, why aren't those people in jail? I reported them, by the way, both to the police and the Social Security Administration, right? So why aren't they in jail? Well, it turns out the government legitimately doesn't give a fuck if you're disabled enough. They will just pretend like you're crazy enough that they don't have to believe you, because they could just take like anyone who's not considered crazy by the government standards word over yours. Like that's just like legitimately how it works, right? So like even though I'm 100% correct on this, I'm an Aspie, so they don't care. Like they'll be like, he's an Aspie, he's Delulu because he's autistic. And that'll be like their response, right? Like it's not that there's like some evil thing to get you. It's that the government like legitimately doesn't care because you're a fucking like you're a fucking degenerate scum, like terminally online scumbag. So they're not gonna care about you to help you, right? Like they'll care about someone like Critical Drinker first off because he pays taxes. You know, it's like, that's a little boon there, right? But other reasons too, right? Just be aware of that, Cynthetic, man. Like there's reasons why people don't respect you, and it's not for the reasons you think. It is legitimately for the reasons you have fans. Is the reasons why you don't have more fans, right? Like it's fine to be what you are, but I'm just saying like that's what it is, right? Like I could legitimately, because I know how to do art and stuff, turn this channel around as an art education channel, and like I wouldn't get as much as Critical Drinker, mind you, but I get far more subs than I have. I am not doing that by choice. I am the reason my channel is failing, right? I am the reason this channel is dead. I recognize that. I don't care. I'm not gonna pretend, oh, I'm shadow banned or something. Maybe I am shadow banned. I got like some fucking like janky ass titles that probably go against the system too. But you know what? I don't care. Like I literally had a video banned from YouTube, which is literally like when I obtained the White Trinity in Kingdom Hearts 1. Because my Kingdom Hearts Let's Play series, for those who don't know, is called Zoomer Brutally Beats Black People with Metal Rod. Is like the game, right? And like part 14, because you'll notice it goes from 13 to 15, right? Is called Obtaining White Power, because I obtained the White Trinity in it, right? So like I had some janky fucking weird ass titles, right? First off, the only reference to Kingdom Hearts is that I always reference the word dark, light, and heart and kingdom in the descriptions of all of them. And that's it. Like that's the only like thing like you'll actually see of Kingdom Hearts, that in like the thumbnail, right? Which is all like unedited lazy shit. But that's the thing. I could make better content. I'm choosing not to. Honestly, I should not choose not to. I should just choose to make better content. It's probably better for my mental health too. But like that's really what it comes down to. I can objectively make better content because I know how to. So I'm really worse than Cynthetic Man in many ways because I actually can, and I'm just objectively too lazy to right now because I don't give a shit. Like well, my thing is I don't give a shit. Cynthetic Man is that he can't. There's a little difference there.
1.5 million views on YouTube, being anti-woke. There's no hope for you if you still think that.
But like I said, you could argue that because I can, the fact that I don't is worse because it's just pure laziness.
You're out of your fucking mind. Drinker, like many film-oriented people, doesn't have well-developed tastes in other media. As we have to understand, film buffs tend to gravitate towards cinematic games for obvious reasons. Yes, but the story in and of itself is not even that interesting. It's not that different from a fucking Marvel movie. Like,
he likes Marvel movies, though. He just doesn't like the bad ones. What are you talking about? Like, Critical Drinker isn't just a guy who hates Marvel. Like, most of his takes kind of reference Lord of the Rings and Marvel anyway. Like, he's a Disney head through and through, to be honest. But like he's like the 2000s Disney head. Like he's a Pirates of the Caribbean head. That's really what it comes down to. Like when they like the movie that basically is more meme than film, like the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy, fantastic trilogy, but it is legitimately 100% meme, right? Like every single frame of that movie has a meme to it, which is great. There's not too many movies that can do that, but you're not watching it for the plot. You're watching it for like the witty dialogue, the amazing humor, the fucking retarded shenanigans and all that. You don't really watch it for the plot. The plot just is the background. The shenanigans are the movie, right? But it's great. It's a great time. It's just a terrible story, right? But and you could argue that makes his taste bad. I don't. I think that enjoying film for its entertainment value and a story for its entertainment value rather than for pretentious cuntish reasons like Siskel and Ebert want you to do is good. Legitimately, that's what you should enjoy film for, right? That's why I'm no one really cares about wokeness because people who do are nobodies, right? Synthetic Man's nobody. Critical Drinker's not. That's why he doesn't care about wokeness. He cares about he cares about wokeness when it ruins the film, but not when it's there. That's kind of the thing. So, who cares? That's how people operate, that's how normal men operate, right? Yeah, Critical Drinker's a normie, so.
But even without the build-up, though, really. Because we went from God of War 2018, where you just kind of kill Baldur, you kill Thor's sons, that's it, to, suddenly the apocalypse is happening and everyone needs to die. That's not proper build-up. Infinity War had how many movies building up to it? This is not earned in any...
Well, yeah, it had a lot of build-up, whereas God of War had less movies. I think it had more hours, because the 4 games are longer than, the entire MCU to date, even with all the TV shows, right? So it had 4 games just in mainline, and I think 3 side games as well on the PSP of build up to where it is, right? So it has 7 games leading up to that and a couple comics. Now I think the comics were made on canon, so it is 7 games, right? 7 games of build up, all 10 to 60 hours each, is way more content than the entirety of the MCU. Now, and then you also have the ending of the Ragnarok takes another 60 hours because that's a fucking legitimately 60-hour game. It's on its own right. So you by the time you got to Infinity War, God of War just you're middle of God of War 2's story. Because remember there's prequels 2 as well, right? Actually, no, you'd probably be the middle of the first game, really. Now I'm thinking about it, because if you include the prequels, you're in the middle of the first game, right? Because you're including the prequels first. You don't have to, but I'm just saying, you have to play the prequels before 3, though, because people don't know, Poseidon literally deserved every single thing he got. It's not he was just attacking Kratos and that's why he killed him. Poseidon earned that fucking disrespect. You play the prequels, you know exactly why Kratos fucking disrespected Poseidon like that, because Poseidon earned that shit. He deserved every single fucking thing that came to him. But you don't play the prequels, you don't know that, right? But yeah, legitimately, it started that, with God of War Ragnarok too. You had to play all the games to really get all of it. But you don't have to, right? You can just start off. You can play all the games and you'll get all of it, right? The payoff for me for Ragnarok is really all in the DLC, to be fair, of the older games. But there's still good parts about references to older games in the main game. But the real payoff, the real meat and potatoes is in the free DLC, which is literally a fucking masterpiece, which also proves everything he says about the developers here wrong. First off, he's talking about Crystal Dynamics Studio, who developed the game since the second game. They were formed after the first game from the founder, Corey Balrog of the first game. Crystal Dynamics has worked on every single God of War title since the second game. Just so you know, the only one that wasn't was when David Jaffe was the only David Jaffe also joined Corey Balrog, and Corey Balrog is the creator of most of Kratos' good lore, right? David Jaff did create Kratos, but Corey Balrog is really like the reason why people recognize Kratos today. Like no one would recognize Kratos to this day if God of War 1 was the only God of War there was, right? Like I love you, David Jaff, but you're great for Twisted Metal, especially, and the original God of War like stuff was great. But like if God of War 1 was the only God of War game, no one would recognize it today, right? Like no one would really care about it. It's the ones that came after it that really propelled it forward, like 2 especially, really. And like because 3 like they kept propelling it forward from like the first game, but like 2 propelled it so like I think 2 is like the biggest leap, right? In like storytelling. Like 4 is like still a massive leap from 3. And 3 is still a pretty good game. Like it's still better than 2, but like when we're comparing leaps, like the leap from 1 to 2 is just so fucking phenomenally high. And then like, you know, it went a little bit higher in 3, massively higher in 4, and a little bit higher in 5, right? I feel like they kept ascending in quality with like the mainline games of the story. But like you know, like uh anyways.
Anyway, and the story's not interesting. Like he's fucking lying.
I mean, considering how many people like were watching the story at all times, you're wrong. like, you can say you don't like it. You can say it's like bad to you for the reason, but to say it's uninteresting is objectively wrong, right? Here's my thing, right? Good is a value, right? Concept. Good is personal, right? Interesting is objective, right? Like, if you see numbers, you know it. Like, you can objectively measure if it's interesting or not by like how many people are watching it, like positive and negative content on it, right? If millions of people watch both positive and negative content on something, it's interesting. Good is like, do you like it? Interesting means, do you feel like discussing is worth discussing, right? Like that's I guess a good definition of the two, right?
Lying, because he knows this is honestly. Sony might have not given him a dime. It's not even that. He just saw, okay, where did the public lean toward? Oh, the Sony fanboys who are the vocal minority that dominates any discussion about games on their...
The vocal minority, it made $1 billion. It's not a vocal minority. Like, look, I'm just gonna be real with you, my guy. Look, they aren't like when people say like we are the vocal minority or the silent majority, they tend to be the vocal minority. If they say we are the silent majority, they're the vocal minority. Like just objectively, every single person who has ever said that is the annoying asshole who never shuts the fuck up, who nobody really likes, right? When Az said it, he was that. When you know, when like Rags said it, he was that plus a zoophile. Just saying, like you can look it up. He fucks dogs. He also hangs out with Zella DKD, who cards up animal carcasses and uses them as sex toys. Yeah, that's a rabbit hole. But yeah, like the reason I don't like Synthetic Man is because he's a loser. The reason I don't like Rags is because he objectively fucking creeps me out as a person, right? Like that's probably like why I'm shitting on him instead of watching Rags, because Rags is like, I have like that PTSD of I know his friends who like he like secretly hangs out with, and it's not a good story and it fucking pains me. So I'm just like talking about it without like cuz it like I would have to like sneak into Zella DKD server somehow, fucking like get into calls like silently and stuff to record all this evidence, all these fucking bombshells about what I'm talking about. And I don't want to do that. That was traumatizing to hear it before already. Like when I was like growing as an artist, I don't want to deal with that piece of shit ever again, right? But that's like the thing. If you want to go into a server and figure that shit out, do it. But like that's really like what I'm talking about. That guy is a fucking insane creep. And you will hear like the most disgusting shit like you've ever heard coming from his mouth and some of his friends, right? And Rags is like of that friend group. Like he doesn't hang out in his server, but like he's of that friend group. Like you eventually like go, you'll find like a bunch of servers that they both hang out together in, and talk and all that all the time. And like Zealot is also openly like talks about that shit too. Um, it's kind of creepy. Not gonna lie. But yeah, there's basically a zoophile cabal on the Mauler sphere, but that's why like very few people are better off after joining Mauler. Right? Like Mauler is just kind of a cancer of like online stuff. Oh, that's Sleepy Cabin, right? Okay. So like he watches Sleepy Cabin, but like is like Sleepy Cabin are just edgelords, not really right wing though. Like that's kind of the thing.
Platform.
I will say this though, one thing that did creep me out is like on the Ava Chris Tyson situation, like everyone was like mad that she was into Lolicon and not the fact that she had a camper van that she fucking brought over. Like I don't fucking care about Lolicon, right? Like I mean I know Synthetic Man really legitimately doesn't either, but like that's kind of the thing. I legitimately couldn't care less. Like whatever tickles your pickle, my I don't know, like my gal, right? My well endowed gal, right? Whatever tickles your pickle, but like, no, like that camper van, no, like that's kind of the thing. If it's fictional, whatever tickles your pickle. But if you're starting to bring camper vans into it, you need to go, and not just out from the show. You need to go to jail. Like that's just my thing on there. Right? Like camper van, no, fuck that shit. Like camper vans really like whenever it's like you're meeting someone you don't know with a camper van, that should honestly just be a massive red flag in everyone, right? But like the thing is, parents aren't parents anymore, so like we're not like legitimizing never talk to strangers. I've never ever seen. I don't know how well I did that, but like it's from Kindergarten Cop, right? Like everyone's like the best. Every like transphobe is like the best lesson is like that 3-year-old kid who says boys have a penis, girls have a vagina, and he can't even say his V, so he says vagina instead of vagina. No, like it's 6, technically not 3. It's kindergarten. Like they're 6 years old. Like that's not the best lesson. That's also kind of creepy that they're having a 6-year-old say that. But anyway, it's whatever. Like it's a movie, right? But it's a joke too, right? But what really is bad is in the fucking like towards like the middle, they start saying never talk to strangers, right? That is, and always look both ways before you cross the street, right? All like those are honestly like the two important life lessons. Obviously, never talk to strangers is probably like the most important thing you should teach a kid. Like honestly, like unironically, the most important thing you should teach a kid is to always look where they're going and never talk to strangers. Objectively, right? But you can talk to dogs. I love that. Like, I love that they add that. You can talk to dogs. Like, to be fair, you shouldn't talk to random dogs either. But like, dogs are more trustworthy than humans. I'm not gonna lie. Like a dog's barking at me, talking to me from like across the fence, I can trust that they're not gonna jump over it, because they're usually trained not to jump over it unless you like really try to start some shit anyway, or you hop the fence. Like usually dogs don't jump the fence if you are always on the other side of it, right? Like there's some dogs that are fucking like don't care, but like most dogs are fine. But like legitimately, like never talk to strangers. Just don't. It's like the best lesson to teach a kid. The most important one.
The game to death and dislikes bombs any game criticizing it. Okay, so I'm gonna pick the safe option and just pretend the game's really deep and amazing, cause he is a grifter. All these people are grifters.
No, I think he's just like a normie. That's what it really comes down to. Like no one really cares like about like keeping the grain like all the time, right? No one really cares. Like, everyone has their own opinions. First off, are you sure? Like, how many like anti-woke people like M3 GAN, right? I also love like how they called it M3 GAN. So for those who don't know, like GAN is like like an artificial intelligence model. It refers to I believe it's like general antagonist. I gotta remember what like that stands for. Like, and M3 is like it's version 3, and like M is like a model, right? So yeah, like it's a cool like anagram for like an actual concept in AI, because GANs are in AI, right? Like that's like any time you use an AI like service, you're using a GAN models. Like you're using more advanced than just GAN, but like GAN is like the way that they have to train it. So like they have to have one that like affirms, one that generates, and one that like negotiates, right? So I think that's what it is. It's like a generating antagonist negotiator or something like that. Like I gotta actually look up the anagram after this, but like that's kind of the thing. It's cool. It's dope as fuck. See, I'm an artist. I love AI because AI is like cool and it can automate shit. That's cool. I don't use like it for professional stuff, but like it is absolutely dope. I'm an artist. I think if anyone uses it for fun, it's fine. And if they use it for professional versions, as long as they're honest, it's fine. Just be honest about it though. Like don't like hide it, and you're fine with me.
They do not care about you or your plight at all. They don't. This is just another way to make money. It's a small bubble, because anyone who actually believes in anything says things way too controversial to make any fucking money. And I'm pretty sure it's against YouTube's terms of service, but I've already showed you how much money I make. It's not a lot. It's not a lot. Now, if I did like 2 sponsorships a month, I'd probably make way more money. I would make way more. But people don't like the sponsorships, and I can't blame them, because I have a brand based on honesty, which is evident by all my various rants.
Yeah, that's your brand, but like your brand is also based off of being a perpetual loser. You're honest about it, but you are a perpetual loser. So like, people who are already losers might gravitate to watch you, and people who are lol-cal farmers who want to farm you for their own content will watch you, but that's about it. So it's like you got other losers and rejects watching you, and you've got like people who shit on you watching you. That's it. It's fine. Like that's a fine like band of misfits you got. And I've been on bands of misfits too. I don't fucking care if you're in a band of misfits. I am too. But let's be honest. That's why no one watches you. They're a band of misfits. Right? Critical Drinker isn't. You are. And it's fine to admit that, but that's what it is.
It's about other people's dishonesty.
Like, really what it comes down to is, like, everyone's like, oh, you're just all hive-minded. Like, Synthetic Man isn't a hive mind. Critical Drinker isn't a hive mind, right? Like, not all lefties are hive minds. Like, Vosh, Dead Domain, Keffels, all of them are against each other just as much as, like, they are against, their other side, right? Like, they probably infight far more than the right does, and the right infights a lot, too, right? The idea that the right doesn't infight is really just because, like, the right, it tends to be bigger. So, like, you'll have, like, this guy is always right-wing infighting, like, Razor Fist does it a lot, too. But then, like, it depends, right? Now, if you want to talk about grifters, Mark Kern is a grifter, right? Asmongold is a grifter, but he's a fun grifter, so people like him because he's fun. He makes interesting content, and that's all that people care about, really. If you grift, you grift. Like, ultimately, this is a hustle, right? Like, grifting isn't a bad thing. What's bad is, like, being a piece of shit and stealing from your fans hundreds of thousands of dollars and then not making the thing you're supposed to be making.
But I don't make a lot in ad revenue. I don't. I would never lie about that for even a second. I could show you how much money I made off of the fucking first Last of Us video. It's not a lot. It's not a lot. What did Drinker say about me? I don't know. Let's just fucking skip to the end of the video. Because that's what people wanted me to react to, right?
But honestly, those first few hours feel like you're given control for a couple of minutes at a time before the game throws you into another extended cutscene. Or even worse, forces you to walk down a fixed path while scripted dialogue plays out, where your control is so limited that it might as well just be a movie. Honestly,
Now, notice how he put this 10 minutes into the video, so most of the people who will watch this will never see this part. If I guarantee you, if in all my videos if I did all the positives first and then the negatives afterward, all my like-dislike ratios would be much higher, because guess what? For YouTube videos, the watch time decreases massively after the first minute. It's something like over 30% of people stop watching after the first minute. So, let's just save my few criticisms for the game for the end of the video to make it look like I'm a real critic.
like I say, this is really just...
Well, yeah, that's just how YouTube is, though. But, no, like, it's also because, like, people like positive energy more than negative energy. So, like, they'll gravitate more towards, you genuinely liking something you enjoy rather than the other way around. Now, you might be thinking, wait, that's how it works when your content... But the thing is, you got to keep doing that. Really what it comes down to, people didn't watch your positive content because you weren't making it enough. You didn't have enough of it. You didn't have, like, it wasn't as well edited as you think, and that's basically it.
the temporary...
You have proper thumbnails and titles, right? Like that Mr. Beast, like, leak would legitimately, like, make your channel grow, right? A lot. But you'd have to, like, actually, like, learn to structure it like that. And you have to completely restructure your channel. You still could be honest and all that, keep your brand and stuff, but you'd be restructuring it in a way that people actually enjoy your content. That aren't, like, loser fucking rejects. This is what you want. Like, you could be a Bowser. Like, Bowser is, like, basically, like, a band of misfits, too, right? Like if you look at Bowser, they all like each other, right? Like, Koopa Troopas and Bowser are, like, fucking two peas in a pod, birds of a feather. You know what I mean? They love each other. Like, they're family, right? You know, they all hate Mario and you know, they all want to date Peach and all that shit, right? But at the end of the day, they're all like a family. They all love each other at the end of the day. Like, they act quirky and ridiculous, and you might think that they hate each other on the surface level, but then you actually look any deeper into the lore of Mario, and you realize they're a family unit. It's like they're roughhousing, kind of like brothers roughhouse, you know, as kids. You don't know about that Cynthetic Woman because you didn't have a brother to roughhouse with. I did. That's one of the best parts about my life. Unfortunately, he is no longer with us. Rest in peace, my brother. Yeah.
The game opens up once you've churned...
That's not
Not
true. That's not even true anyway. I already know where he's going with this, but he's still wrong. Wolf Ion says, thanks to the $2. I don't know why video games get a pass on woke. Because they make more money than Hollywood, and it's just that there's no established group of people who are anti-woke. Let's say I wasn't a misanthropic introvert who hates everybody or whatever. If I was a normal person who was extroverted, who had a network of other YouTubers that I linked up with, and we all hated wokeness in video games, and that, let's say that network blew up to cumulatively 3 million subs amongst 5 to 10 people, then people would suddenly be anti-woke. But there is no network in the gaming space for that. Now, for film and comic books, there absolutely is, but there just isn't for video games. I couldn't point to you an exact reason. That's just what it is. That's just reality.
There also seems to
Well, no, there is. There was even this year. Like, the reason why is because no one cares about wokeness that much, right? Like, pretty much everyone who criticized this game looked like the loser they are, right? Like, legitimately they did, right? And it's not because this game is above criticism. It's just that the people who have done it don't know haven't played the game, and it kind of shows. Like, there might be one or two people who actually played the game, but this is the thing. Like, you're criticizing this on wokeness rather than actual problems with the narrative. And that's the issue, right? Like, Grums is doing that, and he's looking like a retard too, right? Because the game is legitimately good, right? Like, the gameplay is kind of mid because there's not enough of it early on, and like it's slower paced combat than the originals. But otherwise, it is a good game. Like the story is genuinely great. But like that's kind of the thing, right? Like it's just a great story. He just doesn't see it because he doesn't, I guess, understand like anything that's happening because he didn't actually finish the game.
Be this weird implication floating around that Ragnarok is somehow a woke game, and honestly, I just don't get it. Either I'm missing something that other people are clearly seeing, or they might be projecting things that aren't actually there. I never once got the feeling that the game was trying to crowbar in some clumsy and inappropriate political ideology to its story, or elevate certain characters at the expense of others. Yeah, female characters like Freya and Thrud are depicted as powerful warriors that can hold their own even against someone like Kratos, because they're literal gods. But they're also complex, flawed, and
Kratos kills gods for breakfast. Freya is not flawed. Cursing your son with immortality because you love him is not a character flaw.
No, but you know what is a character flaw? Always being like, basically like at the fucking second fiddle to your husband, basically hating his guts but being unable to leave him, doing a myriad of horrendously awful things, because of that, there's a lot of flaws to Freya's character. It's not flaws that you would say are she's a bad person for, I guess, but they are like that. That's subjective, right? Like that's the point of a lot of character flaws anyway. Like Kratos has character flaws, Atreus has character flaws, Odin has character flaws, Thrud has character flaws, Angerboda has character flaws. Fucking the squirrel guy, Ratatoskr has character flaws, right? Heimdall does, Sindri, Freyr, like the dude, at the end, like near the end of the game. Both Tyr and Odin's hiding that he's Tyr for the while, right? They all have like things about them that are little quirks about them, right? Like they're not all like perfect schmurfik people. None of them are. Maybe that's what it is. Like Kratos, they're all elevated from like the original games to the level that Kratos is. So like because like Kratos doesn't seem as deep to you because he's not the only character with given any depth. Like that's true. Like Kratos is the only like character with any depth in the old games. Like while I said like you understand why Poseidon did died the way he died because he absolutely did deserve to die that way. It's not depth. He just did shitty things in like some of the prequel spin-offs. So you know that he deserved to die because of that. But it's not that he just, was like it was like a growth or I guess a reduction, a shrinkage or whatever. Like, no, he just always was depicted pretty like similarly in every appearance, as like a conniving, scheming bastard who like inevitably led to like Kratos fucking like going on his journey in like to kill all the gods in the first game, because like he's the one who would caused him like all the stuff that he had to do to that he even like sided with Ares in the first place, which of course like led to him killing his own family in the first game, which led to like the whole series after that. So yeah, Poseidon was objectively a piece of shit who deserved to die, but he wasn't like a deep, like you saw that surface level, right? Like the thing, like you're saying Freya isn't deep, but you're seeing her surface level. Yeah, if you only see someone's surface level, you're not going to say they're deep because you're not looking for anything. Like I can say your surface level. I think there's some depth to it, but I can just say your surface level because I only have to see the surface. Like that's kind of the thing. Like no matter what depth I go, you're going to be a loser. But I might like be able to like actually find some advice to help you that if you took would actually make your life better if I went deep enough, right? I don't want to because I'm not getting paid to do that, and I don't think anyone should do that shit for free. But yeah, if you want a therapy lesson, if you're willing to pay me, motherfucker, I can tell you exactly what is wrong with you right now.
Someone who analyzes film might know what a character flaw is. That is not a character flaw, that is a mistake. Characters make mistakes, even perfect characters, even if the writers might argue that it's not a mistake, make mistakes. A character
Well, that's what a character flaw is. Like, a character flaw is a flaw in your behavior or in decision making. Like, you know that, right? When they say never write flawless characters, they literally mean never write flawless characters. Like, a bad written woman isn't a woman who is shown to be equal to the protagonist. It's a woman who's, like, from the beginning shown to be above everyone, or if they start below everyone, they are effortlessly put above everyone. Like, a good way to say is Rey from, like, Star Wars, or like Mila Jovovich's Alex from the Resident Evil movies, right? Like, that's a Mary Sue, right? Where there's, like, no build up to her becoming, like, a nobody dipshit to better than every single other character in the movie, including her clones, right? Like, that's Resident Evil movies, right? And after the first two movies, everything was dog shit in them, and even in the second movie, it was kind of bad, right? But the first movie, she also isn't really a Mary Sue. Like, she's not the only competent character in the first movie. This is why, like, people, like, are easier on the first Resident Evil movie than the others. One, it doesn't actually have anything to do with any of the other characters. And two, it's also that, like, she objectively isn't a Mary Sue. Like, she's not outshining Carlos Oliveira Carlos Oliveira, and he's Olivier in the movie, though. And then Jill Valentine in the first movie, right? She's not outshining Chris Redfield and Claire Redfield and fucking Leon S. Kennedy in the first movie. You know, like, she's not outshining all of the cast of the games in the first movie. She's not outshining Barry Burton. She's not outshining Ada Wong. She's not outshining Albert fucking Wesker. You know, like, she's not outshining them because it's all, like, original stuff. She's not beating the shit out of Nemesis with her bare hands in the first movie. So people are fine with the first movie. People still are okay with the second movie just because it's, like, kind of fun. And some people are okay with the third movie just because the soundtrack's a banger. Like, the first three soundtracks are an absolute banger. I will give them that. Like, the soundtrack of the first three movies is absolutely awesome. And then the fourth and fifth and sixth movie happen, and you can't even defend them on that. But, like, yeah. Like, the first movie is great. The second movie is okay. The third movie is shit, but the music's good. And everything else is just objectively trash, right? But that's why she's a Mary Sue, right? And now, Mary Sue's can be interesting sometimes. Like, Joss Whedon is very guilty of a lot of Mary Sue's in some of his, like, earlier works. Like, and it's, like, what eventually, like, he rose it to, they're no longer Mary Sue's, and where he basically created the genre of the femme fatale. Which is literally, like, a thing that was, like, basically, like, it's literally like the Joss Whedon stereotype is the femme fatale, which is, the hot chick that can kick some ass and is very mysterious, but ultimately, like, still sides with the good side, right? Femme fatale, right? And, like, a good way to say is, like, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or like Elektra and stuff like that. Like, that's the femme fatale, I believe. Ada Wong in the games. In the movies, fuck that shit, right? She ain't one. But, like, in the games, like, Ada Wong is, like, the ultimate femme fatale, right? Which is why, like, it really sucks that she's, like fucking, like, side-tracked and then killed off screen in the Resident Evil movies. But yeah, Alice is, like, legitimately a Mary Sue. Freya isn't a Mary Sue, right? she's a strong woman. Hell yeah, she's also a goddess, right? And also like, yeah, Kratos can kill gods and goddesses. So, if you've actually played the games, he doesn't just kill all the gods like willy nilly. First off, he has blades that are designed to, kill a lot of those guys. You're just on him at all times. He even like wields like blades specifically designed to kill like the most powerful god in that verse at the time, which was like the Blade of Olympus, right? So yeah, like Kratos can kill gods and goddesses if he has the right tools for it, right? Like, I don't know if you ever actually played the games, but like the whole point, like Kratos is Kratos is winning those fights, but it's like a war of attrition and strategy, right? Like he's kind of lucky in the way he wins a lot of fights when you really look at it from a narrative standpoint in the earlier games. In these games, he's not really as lucky. Like he's holding back in all his fights in the fourth game and the fifth game, right? Like he's holding back the entire time, and he's still like doing some pretty brutal moves. Like this is the thing, everyone's like he's laid back and weaker. No, he's more stoic and fucking and holding back, right? Because he does, like, the thing is, the entire plot of the fourth and fifth game, just so you know, Synthetic Man, you see that character in the bottom right screen, right? You notice how in the first game he doesn't have that, right? He doesn't have one of those to lose. He doesn't have one of those to wish a better life for, right? He doesn't want his son to live the life he had, so he doesn't want his son to walk the path he did. That is why, just so you know, he acts the way he does. Because he's holding back for this little bastard right here. It's called Atreus. It's called his son. In the original game, there was a joke, boy, right? You'd always call him boy, right? But that's the thing. Atreus, or boy, or Loki, is his son. He doesn't want to fight as raw and hard as he did for his son. You get that, right? Like he wants a better life than he had as a person that made him suicidal at the end of the trilogy for his son. Like he knows where that leads, so he doesn't want his son to take that route, right? That's why even in the the fifth game, fourth and fifth games, most of it, the kills are all done by Kratos, even though Atreus does do some fighting, right? The reason why is Kratos doesn't want his son to be living that life. It's not a good life, he knows it, and he doesn't want his son to live. Like, Kratos in the first three games is not like some badass macho man. He's a tragic fucking, like, it's literally a Greek tragedy, right? Like, it's an immense tragic story where even after winning it all, he still loses. Right? And then the Norse games, right, are kind of like more on like Norse mythology stories, right? Norse mythologies are like about the end and rebirth on like for the Ragnarok story, right? And also like, stuff like deception. Odin's very deceptive in the game and all that, right? And stuff like that, right? Like they have similar likeness to them, but they're not the same religion and they're not the same stories, right? It's not like Roman mythology where it was like so similar they were basically considered the same people. Norse mythology is completely different stories, completely different time period, and a completely different focus on what they were telling, right? It's not a Greek tragedy. It's more like it's a Nordic, a Nordic epic. I don't know what they're called, but yeah, it's more about triumph and grief and stuff. Like if you fucking read Beowulf, my guy, right? Like, just read some actual Norse literature. You might understand why the focus is so different if you actually read what is going on, in the Greek and the Nordic book styles.
There's
a big difference, is what I'm saying.
is different from a mistake. I probably should have said that in my original video, but I didn't think I needed to explain something like that.
And well-written individuals in their own right, and by the end, Freya doesn't just respect Kratos, she defers to him. The only thing I can possibly...
That's a lie. That's a lie. Do you want to post evidence of that?
He does. She respects him a lot in the games. What the fuck are you on about, right? She disrespects him initially because he killed her fucking son. But like, if you pass like the first 10 hours, she stopped being like that. I should say, actually, like the first 2 really. Like she has to grow to like him again because like she was against. But it takes the whole game before she really appreciates him again. But like, yeah, she does objectively like side more and more with Kratos. Yes. In fact, she doesn't even get the dub, right? You would be like, oh, she's like some bad. Like, guess who gets the dub? It's not Kratos. It's not her. It's not Loki. Even it's Sindri, the guy who deserved it the most at that moment to people, right? Even though Freya kind of deserved it too, they give it to Sindri. Because for those who don't know, like the Sindri story in that series, Brock is dead the entire like both games, right? He's like revived as like a half spirit, right? In the like before the first game happens, right? And that's why like he's blue in both games. And like the point of it is like, you know, like Sindri doesn't want like his like his brother to find out, and he hides it from him and stuff like that. And like his brother's a bit of an asshole, right? But like he's an asshole who like points shit out when it feels like it's not right. Like he's always dicking around with the main cast. But the second Odin in the Disguise of Tyr like you know, tries to like sneak away and like, you know, like solve the Ragnarok problem he had, and like get the mask so he can like try to see a way to solve his fate. He kills Brock because Brock, you know, sees that as like, wait, you did no work. You're taking away that boy's shit. You're taking away that boy's glory. You're saying, you know, you're not even addressing the kid by his actual fucking name. You're giving him like this pet name that like he had like very young, but his mother wanted him to have a different name to hide from your ass specifically. Like, because the thing is, like, Atreus is called Atreus, for those that are wondering, because he's originally born Loki, but he's called Atreus, I believe, because, you know, like your dead wife in the game, one of her dying wishes was to protect him, and like he had to like hide the truth about it, like his like frost giant in Aesir identity from Odin, right? So he calls him Atreus to hide that, right? So, you know, because like in the lore, both in the Norse mythology and like the games, is like they hate frost giants, right? The Aesir hate the frost giants. So, in order to solve that issue, they have to hide who he is. But Odin knows that he's Loki, like from the get-go. He don't even hide it. But throughout like the games, like the only person who really truly consistently calls him Loki is Odin. But Tyr is also kind of calling him Loki a bunch, right? And like, you know, because here's the real thing. This is why like I hate like fucking like the don't call them like their nickname, like, you know, with like transphobes. It's like the reason why is like it's sort of like Norville is called Shaggy. No one calls him Norville, right? We call him Shaggy because that's his name, right? Once you give someone a nickname long enough, it's basically like that's their name. So like that's how Brock is. Like that ain't his name. He's fucking Atreus, because like they're bros, right? He knows him as Atreus. You know, he's like, you've been here how long, and you will not respect his nickname? Like, that's not, you know, you're not a bro, you're a fucking loser, right? Like, he's like, you've done nothing since you've been here. You've produced nothing. You can't even make a good soup. You know, like he's just shitting on him so much because of how much of a loser he was basically in that time. Because he's also, not only is he like being shitty just to like because he's Odin. He's also trying to shit on Tyr's legacy because he knows Tyr isn't actually dead, right? So he wants them to think that Tyr is shitty. So when they meet the real Tyr, eventually, like they will like fucking hate him too. But like it doesn't work out, right? He ended up like freaking out and you know, getting angry, which turns off his disguise, and then stabs Brock because his cover is blown, right? And so Brock dies doubly dead, basically. And when you lose your half soul, you can't be revived a second time. Like you can only lose half a soul twice, right? So like he lost half his soul. That's why he's blue in the games. But then like now he's dead again. So Sindri can't even revive him, right? At that point, so Sindri fucking is like just extremely mad at that loss, right? And because this is like his his main like thing was like not letting him know that he died, right? And then like the last words he hears from his brother is that he found out and he forgives him for like you know, hiding it from him because he knew like he really couldn't deal with that. Sindri fucking breaks, and like that's why Sindri's the one who takes out Odin. You know, in the end, like when Loki like puts him in the little gem rock, it's not a lot of the characters like all had like legitimate reasons to do it, but they give it to Sindri, right? And it's amazing because Sindri is literally fucking broken. Like even at the end of the game, Sindri wants nothing to do with anyone in the main cast. He's sort of like Freya in the beginning of the game, right? He wants nothing to do with anyone because he's like, we didn't have to get involved with this. We chose to because we liked you, and you literally left me with nothing, and you took even more from him. Like that's how he feels. So like he even after you know, basically killing the main threat, he's just fucking like pissed off, and he's not gonna fight you, but he wants nothing to do with you anymore.
Freya deferring to Kratos, because I seem to remember multiple lines in the game of her constantly challenging his authority. There's literally a line in my review where she says she can take him. Now, it was, you know, slightly in jest. Obviously, it was supposed to be a playful little line, but it shows what the writers really think, that this fucking Vanir god, who really has no reason to be nearly as powerful as she is, Kratos killed an entire pantheon of gods.
Okay, so it's a different pantheon. Like they even say that the Aesir are stronger than the gods from Olympus. Like they say that the Aesir are like just inherently stronger than the Olympians. But because Olympians grow stronger as they get older, like they also add that as well, which is why like Kratos is really just reserved a lot. Like he is stronger than her. But she doesn't know it because here's another thing. Kratos is holding back. So, like, I'll go away and say, oh, well, like, she's, like, you know, but, like, yeah, she might be, you know, dealing with different feats, though, you know? Maybe, like, have you ever thought of that?
Odds. Fucking no problem, but she's a match for him. Retard. I'm just gonna say retard. Like, you might as well just say it at this point.
Possibly come up with that people might take issue with is Angrboda, who looks a bit out of place in a story that's all about Norse mythology.
Okay,
but in
at
the
least you
context
point
of
that out.
interdimensional realm travel, wildly exotic landscapes, cultures, different races, and even species, a few characters with different skin tones is probably the least unusual thing you're gonna see.
Okay, yep, see? There, he said it with his own words. If it's fantasy, it's completely fine to shit on white culture.
But it doesn't shit on white culture. It has a black chick. First off, she's the mother of monsters. Like, you know that, right? Like, she's literally a monster. Like, that's who she is. She's like the first monster is like kind of like a thing. Just one thing. Just putting that part out there. And also, like, yeah, like, okay, she's got darker skin. So, like, I'll be honest, like, first off, it's not the same fantasy because it's like going across different mythologies already. The real thing of like why this is a dumbass fucking point though is that isn't that just that it's its own, technically its own fictional universe, and like they do this all the time in like anime and all that anyway. But also, like the role she has in the mythology isn't human even. Like so, like really, like giving her a black chick role, like in saying that like the fucking monster is black, like I mean, it's not going against the mythology necessarily. And it definitely isn't like saying like anything like positive about the race, like just inherently. It's more like how she interacts, it's positive and stuff, right? In other words, she's not inherently a good person. She has to be and act like a good person. She has to do good person things to be perceived as a good character. They show you that she's good rather than tell you that she's good, right? You get what I'm saying, right? Like inherently, she's not beloved in Nordic culture because she's the mother of monsters, right? Well, you get how that works, right?
That's what he said in other words. And you are a fucking weasel if you try and argue otherwise. You're a fucking weasel, pathetic slime ball. That is basically what he just said. There you go.
And it's not like she's even used to make some awkward point about contemporary social issues. She's
See, here we go. This is what they say every time. If there's any subtle propaganda, the so-called people on your side will just argue it's not there at all. If it's not screaming it in your fucking face, because
what's the propaganda though? It's not subtle propaganda. It's a person physically there in a video game in a role that isn't even necessarily a positive role in the initial mythology. They make it positive by having her act like a good person, but that's the other thing. Like she has to demonstrate good actions through actual good writing and character development. In other words, if she didn't actually act like a good person, they're not saying she's good, they're showing she's good, right? So like if she didn't act like that, you would think she's a shitty person, but you don't, and that's why you think it's propaganda, because she is a black person in like a white mythology that isn't like evil. But she's why is it she not evil? Is it that she like is just like said to not be evil? No, she's shown to not be evil. Right? You can't say she's evil in the game because she acts like a good person, right? She acts like a good person would act in these scenarios. So now your mind is fucked because, right, she's portraying a character who, first off, she's not white or black or even like humanoid in the mythology in most like interpretations of it, because she's the mother of monsters, right? But also like in a lot of the interpretations I've seen, she's literally like a literal fucking monster, right? Herself, right? So like this is different, sure, but it's not like she's not portrayed that positively either. Like she's not like that well. Like what? Who else isn't that well? Like Loki, right? Outside the MCU, Loki isn't really like that much in Norse like culture, right? He's the god of deception. He's the god of fucking assholes, and really Loki isn't even a good guy outside of the MCU most times either, right? Like I think like the MCU is actually where like that anti-hero narrative for Loki came from, because I don't remember ever seeing Loki be an anti-hero in the comics or shows, right? Until after the MCU. But like that kind of thing too, right? Like like it's sort of like Catwoman. Catwoman was an anti-hero until after the shows or in movies like made her one. Like she was always just like a villain early, like before then, right? That's the thing. Like the movies changed some things that made it perceive it by showing you that there was more potential for that character, right? And like that's what happened with a lot of our best characters. Like Batman was the same way. Batman literally like was like a fucking like worthless dweeb in most interpretations until like the Dark Knight. Really, like the Michael Keaton ones were badass, but like they were like one note badass. But like before the Dark Knight movies didn't really realize that, and before like the '89 show, no one really realized it. Batman got depth because of the '89 show. Just so you're wondering, that's why Batman is so deep. The Batman the animated series made Batman who he is today. Like we like the Dark Knight helped as well, but Batman the animated series is Batman. That's Batman. Because that's who Batman became. It wasn't Batman before. That's who Batman became, right? Everything people love about Batman was born in the animated series. Like just full stop, right? But like this is kind of the thing, right? Like it's like sort of like everything people love about the Joker was made in The Killing Joke. Right? Like the Joker was like a fucking nothing clown character before The Killing Joke, and now he's literally the most amazing character of all time. He wasn't always like that though, right? Like he was just like a fucking joke character, one-off villain, and like kind of occasionally like just like a goofy goofball in like the '60s, and that was it. One like the Riddler was like the main Batman villain before The Killing Joke, right? Like you know that, right? Like, but like the reason why it eventually evolved into Joker is the star, is because of how fucking good and interesting The Killing Joke was. It's sort of like, you know, like the changes Johnny Cash did to Hurt from Nine Inch Nails. No one even remembers it as Nine Inch Nails' song. Even Nine Inch Nails says it's Johnny Cash's song now, right? Because Johnny Cash's cover is just so much better in every single way, and the changes he did made it so good that people love it so much more than the Nine Inch Nails version. Nine Inch Nails version is still good, but Johnny Cash owns that shit. Let's face it. And that's the thing, right? So you're mad that the changes that they made are legitimately just good changes, and you can't hate on them for those changes, like as they actually are. So you have to hate on them for changing things, and that's kind of the thing, right? Like, no, why change it? Well, because it's good. That's why change it, right? Like, it wasn't bad. Like, it does change. It does add things. And you see it. That's why you're mad that it happened, right? Because you're like, why couldn't it be a white chick that these positive changes for Anchor Boda were given to? Right? And the fact is, it could have been. It could have been. No one really would have cared either way, right? Like, the character was never really, like, a big character in the Norse mythos for, like, positive attributes of anything, right? She became that because of this game in many people's eyes, right? So that's really what it comes down to. When someone sees a way that they can improve a character, they do it. And if people agree, that's when you get videos like this simping on it. And the way you do that is you try, right? People are like, oh, these guys, they're so arrogant. They think they can improve this thing that's thousands of years old. Everyone like, yeah, it's called art. Being an artist. And artists are arrogant assholes. You know, that's why people like them. Because they're the ones that actually have the arrogance to do shit like this.
Because you're an idiot, then it's not there. See, this is the problem. They don't have a problem with wokeness at all if it's done subtly. You could have subtle communist propaganda in any game you want, subtle racial supremacy, subtle whatever. Well, unless it was white supremacy, then people would sniff it out like a fucking hound dog easily. With it would never be stated in the game, and people would easily make the argument for it. But if it's anything else...
Are you talking about far left people who the Crickle Drinker shits on now? Because he does shit on people who do that. Okay.
Mahler said on Real BBC there is no white culture. I know. I read, like I said, I read the Kiwi Farms thread. He got that from Sargon, by the way. Mahler doesn't even have original thoughts on politics. He gets them from Sargon, and we all know Sargon is a fucking... I mean, he's a grifter, but he's not just a grifter. He's like the smuggest motherfucker. I'm so ashamed that I used to watch him. The funny thing is like he's kind of like backpedaled on a lot of that, but not explicitly. He still pretends he's a centrist, but he's gone way harder on the SJW anti-SJW stuff on podcast The Lotus Eaters. So I don't even know why he pretends at this point, but you know, most of Mahler's idea of real politics is stolen from Sargon.
Just a character who's there to fill you in on some backstory, and that's pretty much it. I guess my point here is that while it's important to call out divisive identity politics in media, it doesn't mean that it exists everywhere. And if you start trying to...
See, here we go. It's evidence of the Overton window shifting. I will allow this to continue, but it's literally what I talked about in my most recent video. M Nemesis, thanks for $10. Okay, well...
Well, the Overton window. No, that's not what the Overton window is. The Overton window would be if politics was moving in the left, which, you know, then people would start seeing more further left things as acceptable, right? Because, you know, like, really progressivism and conservatism aren't, like, static ideas. Like, they're, like holding traditions and not being beholden to traditions is like basically like first off, what's conservative in one country with one religion and whatever will be conservative and it will be liberal in a completely different country, right? So like they're dumb like points, right? What really matters is authoritarian versus libertarian. When it comes to like making a point about like how like good or bad a story is. It's why like authoritarians are never like the good guys in things, because authoritarian societies have always been shown to be bad, right? The only time they aren't is Warhammer, but Warhammer, everyone else is just more evil than humanity, so even the authoritarian dickhead humans are less bad than the evil aliens that they fight. So they have to. It's a necessary evil. It's not shown as good. It's shown as a necessary evil, right? Humanity had to give up their humanity to evolve to destroy the monsters. Like they're not good people, but you know they're less bad than the other thing. It's basically what it shows. It's basically a critique on imperialism, colonialism, and all that. Kind of wrapped around like, you know, this is what you have to do. Like this is what you have to give up your humanity to survive this kind of environment. It's never shown as a good decision. It's shown as the decision you had to make, right? And whenever people are like, wait, that's promoting it though. No, it's not. That's the point of showing it as you have to make this only for survival. As in, you shouldn't make this now because there's no threat like that. You have to have a threat that isn't human to justify this, basically, right? You know what I mean? Like, do we have one of those? Well, so far, no, right?
All TBH, it's okay to put different race colors in fantasy, but it has to make sense. The whole Angerboda in God of War looking the way she doesn't make sense story-wise. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. There have been like Middle Eastern, very occasionally African races in fantasy worlds before, but they were from a different land. It was always explained, like even Berserk, that...
I mean, I'm pretty sure Angerboda is also from a different land. Like, she's not from the realm of the Aesir, from what I've like what I remember. Like she's, I'm pretty sure she's from like the realm of the Frost Giants. I'm pretty sure, which look at the Frost Giants. You know, they're all like, some of them look white, a lot of them don't. Right? It's really just the Aesir that are all white, right? She's not an Aesir.
The fucking Kushan, right? They're like some sort of India and Middle Eastern hybrid, and they're from a different land and they control a vast empire. Different land looks different, right? This is just out of fucking nowhere. He said the opposite in his Rings of Power video. This is what I'm trying to tell you. He has no consistent beliefs. It's all about what does the public opinion think. All he does is parrot the public opinion. I just said it in my fucking Last of Us Episode 2 video. God, it's funny. The more videos I watch of his, the more I realize, like, his shit doesn't... Like, he says the vaguest smart sounding. It reminds me of Lex Friedman, kind of, where these people.
I mean, okay, he can be vague, and you can like, and you can try to punch, and I'll just do like an even better one. I'll just go straight for the dick. Leave the balls unruffled, though. You gotta not touch the balls. You know, don't be gay about it. You know, just chop your dick off, but leave the balls untouched. Right? Like give you like a sheath left, right? Like just fucking that'll be all it is. You know, like um, that's what I do when I strike. You know, what do you do when you strike, my motherfucker?
Find a
I
way of
haven't seen
speaking
any fucking heat from you yet.
that sounds intelligent but says nothing. You know what I mean? But people don't point it out because they're fucking dumb. And
I mean, you said nothing, and you think you've sounded intelligent, I guess. So like, there we go. We've got two people who are capable of the same skill. And you know, maybe what it is it takes one to know one in this case. I don't know. Like, you know, projection is a very very, very, very ineffective move in Pokemon battles. I'm just saying, like, it does 0 damage, and it doesn't even boost defense. Like, at least Harden boosts defense. Like, I mean, you know, eventually we're all gonna get past that, like, fucking, like Metapods. Harden, like, is the only move it knows, like, bullshit. Because we do. We objectively always do. But, like, that's kind of the thing, right? Like, it only knows Harden. It does 0 damage, but it boosts its defense, so it takes a little longer. Your projection just doesn't do anything, right? Like, it does 0 damage and it leaves you wide open for like a fucking Thunder Smash or something. So you just know that, like, your move does 0 damage, so who cares?
all you have to do is look at the like dislike ratio to know, like, there's almost no one disliking this because he's just jerking off a game people like. You could say the dumbest shit in the world, but if you're liking something other people like, you won't get dislikes. Because that's everything is Reddit now. Everything is Reddit.
That's how the world always worked, my guy. It's not Reddit invented that concept. If a lot of people like something, a lot of people like something. And like, you can follow memetics and things like that to figure out what most people like and dislike. Like, it's not that hard, my guy. Also, you're just mad you weren't able to beat the game. So, pussy ass bitch, a skill issue.
Problem with non-gamers like drinkers, if you call them out, they just deflect by calling you a nerd with too much time on your hands. Yeah, says the guy who dedicated his career to talking about TV and shit. That's fucking nerd.
I mean, maybe you're just both retarded nerds, but at least he like has money.
Lex
Like
is a
if
good.
I'm gonna go like with what it is, right? Like, if you're both nerds, you're both nerds. But the one that has money is ultimately gonna be like more respected.
Soul is just kind of slow. Not true. Not even slightly true. Not only is he Jewish, and he actually is. He's a Ukrainian Jew, but he's the most astroturfed person on YouTube. Period.
Yeah, okay. And what about you, my guy? I'm starting to see a bit of a Jewy nature from you. You know, like, where's my shekels, motherfucker? Where's my shekels? If we're gonna go like everyone you dislike is a Jew, well, I don't like you. You're a Jew, my guy. It's really like what it matters is like they're like what is a Jew, right? Like, is a Jew really? Like, if we're going, oh, Ukrainians a Jew, right? Like okay, um, where is the Semitic like culture from Ukraine? Oh, it's not existent. I just made that up. Okay, well then you made up his Jewishness. Like, this is the thing. Like, they always like are like, well, you can tell because they have German last names the Heinz Frieden or something like that. I'm like, okay, yeah. Like, I'm pretty sure the guy named Gretchen, the girl named Gretchen der Judenhunter is or like Gertrude, yeah, Gertrude Gypsy Fry, right? Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that person's Jewish, right? Because she got a German last name, right? The German last, a lot of, immigrants, during like the Holocaust came from Germany to Jewish to America, and so therefore like there's a lot of of that going on. But no, that's not how it works, my guy. The Jewish names, for those that don't know, are like Saban, right? Saban, Bandai, right? Is no, not Bandai, no, that's Japanese, sorry. But yeah, Saban is Jewish, right? It's like Hasbro, Saban, all that, right? That's Jewish. And then like Netanyahu, like you gotta like actually know like the fucking Bible, my guy, because you don't actually know shit. You don't know what's Jewish or not. You haven't read your fucking scripture yet. You don't know the book. Like you need to RTFM, motherfucker. Read the fucking manual, because you don't know a Jewish person from you don't know your Hebrew from your fucking you don't know your Hebrew from your Greek, motherfucker. You don't know your Greek from your Egyptian.
Where if you listen to any podcast content, autoplay will lead to him eventually. He only speaks badly when it's ridiculous woke like Saints Row or Velma. When it's more disguised woke with God of War or Horizon, he speaks well. That's what I'm saying.
Well, probably because it's more tolerable. Like, because people don't care about wokeness if it doesn't ruin it for them. That's true. People don't care about wokeness if it's not ruining something. Like that's what he literally has said. Like how many fucking times? Yeah, they don't care if it's not ruining the thing. Like what?
He just parrots the public opinion.
Okay, why would the public opinion? If the public didn't like wokeness, why would the public opinion agree with this game, but not agree with Saints Row? Right? If the problem that the public had was wokeness, why would they only hate wokeness when it was egregious and blatantly ruined the game? This is the problem with this argument, because if that was the case, then the public wouldn't agree, and if the public agrees, that means they don't actually give a shit about wokeness, right? And this is really what it comes down to. Normal people don't give a shit about wokeness. They give a shit about bad games and movies. Wokeness can ruin a game. It's also, the thing is, like, really what it is when it's bad, it's that wokeness is a bandage for a bad product, right? Like wokeness is in a lot of things because it's just left-wing politics, right? Like left-wing politics is a lot of things because a lot of creative people tend to be creative. They tend to be a little more progressive from the societal norms of their area of the time, right? Not always, but most of the time creatives tend to, because they have to be controversial, and it's easier to be controversial as a progressive than a conservative, because conservative is literally and creative at the same time, as in a conservative, you have to creative, you have to create something new. Conservatives, you have to want the same thing, right? So it's easier to be progressive and creative, because you basically both like things to change, right? A creation is a change ultimately, right? So that's why a lot of conservatives kind of fail as creatives. It's not because conservatism necessarily negates that. It's that if you're hardcore conservative, like someone like Cynthetic Woman, you can't. Objectively, you can't. Right? You can't create because you're so upheld to your traditions that you can't. Also, to be fair, he's not even really that. He's not even a conservative. Really, he's just a failure. But he wants to say left and right or objective positions and not anything else. You're not conservative if you're fapping to Futanari. You're not conservative if you're doing Nazi shit anyway. No society is fascist in its traditions. Right? There is not a single one that is traditionally fascist. So you can't be conservative and support Nazis. Because Nazis are ultimately gonna be a progression from where you are. The thing is, progressive in this is why I'm saying authoritarianism matters more. Are you an authoritarian or libertarian? Because ultimately, yeah, until you are already authoritarian, all all societies upholding libertarianism is going to be more conservative. Now, if you are like communists, then it's going to be the opposite, obviously, right? Where like getting more freedom is always progressive, right? But like outside of North Korea, libertarian is always conservative because it's a tradition, right? So like if you are traditionally more have more freedoms, continuing to have that more freedom is a traditional value. And because all societies basically, except North Korea, have failed to have traditions through generations of authoritarianism, right? You don't have conservative authoritarian values in most of the world, right? But like regardless, that's why like when people say it's like a left wing value, really it's not, because really the problem is not where the values of Nazis and commies lie. It's the authoritarianness of it. Like all authoritarian societies are shitty and fail. Like monarchs fail and are shitty. Fascism fails and is shitty. Nazism fails and is shitty. Communism failed and was shitty. Theocratism fails and is shitty. Like they all are failures and shitty, and they all like involve genocides and all that shit. Right? It's all disgusting bullshit. Libertarianism doesn't necessarily, right? In fact, libertarianism can sometimes solve a genocide that's happening. Like libertarianism in America solved the genocide of slavery, right? Like slavery, the way it was done in America, and was a genocide. Like objectively, it was. And so what was solved with libertarianism, by the way, was it allowed industrialism to happen. And when industrialism happened, slavery wasn't profitable enough to be sustained. Like the reason why the Confederate Army lost is also the reason why it was formed. They weren't making enough money to thrive with a society of slavery in a world that was going to be industrialized, and they knew it. So they were always going to lose the war regardless, because they knew they were not making enough money to uphold those traditions anyway. They were always going to end up having to stop doing slavery regardless. And they were fearful because they didn't want to change, right? But it ended up that the progression from like slavery to a like system where like people could actually like, just work their asses off but get paid was a bit, but like get paid well and like also do more consumerist things as well. Like not everyone had to work on all their own things to enjoy life anymore. And like you could also have like things last longer and stuff like that. So you didn't need to keep making grapes, because you could make one patch of grapes and kind of like keep it like fresh for enough time that you could eat it a month later, and that made it so like you didn't need to farm the same shit all the time, right? It was like objectively better for society, right? In like every way, right? But like you had to get rid of slavery to do that. You can't really industrialize properly with slavery in the way it was done. Now slavery is still done in the world, right? But people who are slaves as like the 1800s way are like Andrew Tate kind of like things, or like drug traffickers, right? People who are never really high in society anyway. But like the lithium mines are different for like, and like the low wage employees at like China are different for them. Like that's not really slavery. It's more like their economy fucking sucks, and the people are taking advantage of that, paying what would be slave wages here, but like also like they're good wages there. So like it really doesn't like. It's really weird, right? Like they are doing hard work and they are getting paid next to nothing. But like that next to nothing pay also, also kind of like is better in those areas than it would be here. They haven't had it as much inflation when it comes down to that. So like $1 there like is like $30 here, but like only like in certain things, right? Like in necessities, it's like that. In luxuries, it's the opposite way. Right, like in luxuries, obviously they're like it's worse. But that's kind of the thing. So you can get paid pennies a day when the pennies a day feeds you, clothes you, houses you, and stuff, and gives you all the necessities. But that you don't need the luxuries anymore, right? Well, like the thing is, you own those necessities, so like they can't be just taken away from you. So like that's kind of the thing, right? Like you are not property anymore. But that's basically like the only real benefit like the lithium mines have over that. And obviously like, loosey goosey with the property ownership in China, but yeah. That's beside the point. But like authoritarianism sucks, like just objectively anywhere, right? So like this is why like you sound like a loser, because like any solution to like what the way you're saying would be authoritarian, but authoritarian is evil. It just objectively is. Like it's never beneficial to the people, to either side either, really, like at all. Like libertarianism is objectively always more beneficial because you're allowing people to have rights and using competition to wipe things out, right? And so the way libertarian, like the problem with libertarian like voters is they aren't creators, and libertarians need to be creators. Like you can't be lazy and be a libertarian. You have to actually get off your ass and do shit. And that's really the problem with most libertarians. They're like, oh, we like producers who like create jobs, and like that's all the good stuff about capitalism. Like, yeah, that is. Why aren't you doing that then? like there's more socialists doing like furry porn as a business than there are libertarian like people who actually own their own businesses that people want the product of, right? Like, have you ever noticed that there's more fucking furry, like gay furry socialists, making something like cool than there are libertarians, like open libertarians. Like the furry socialists are, funny enough, more libertarian than the libertarians, which is like a weird concept because they objectively are libertarian, but they identify as socialists and are furries. And then, like, the libertarians are like, we're anti-degenerate, but, like, then they accum to so much porn, it's unfathomable. But, like, also, they, shit on all the furries because they're socialists, but then, like, the furries, like, in their actions are capitalists, and then the libertarians are socialists in their actions. It's always, like, one of the most ridiculous fucking, like, mind fucks for me is, like, why are the commies, like, dissing libertarianism, like the communist furries, and the libertarians dissing like socialism? It should be the reverse, right? Like, because the point of capitalism is to produce and earn and keep capital, right? And that requires you to do shit. So libertarians are objectively like the least libertarian people in any society, and it's fucking funny as fuck. Like, I'm talking about, like, libertarian-minded, not policy-wise, but minded, right? Like, your work ethic as a libertarian should be, like, the furry porn artist. Like, always making sure you find a way to get money for your labor is what furries have done for decades now, right? Like, furries have literally, like, been basically banned off of every fucking pay app and cryptocurrency that fucking imaginable, and somehow still make bank. How is it that furries still make money, right? Like, it is an unfathomable, like, process, right? But, like, the reason why is because, like, it's just kind of, like, how it is, Anyway, that's the end of this. See ya.
His content isn't good, guy.
Like, okay, his content isn't good. Okay, well, it's better than yours, though, so we'll leave with that.